Hey folks, welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode of the podcast features my old friend Betim Berisha, who's got a hell of a story to tell. He just survived a massive heart attack, and the story is crazy. We also talk about our feelings on electric sports cars, Pikes Peak, sustainable fuels, how we're going to turn into the old men who like gas cars, and we have a lot of great Porsche questions. So we love Betim, and BBI Autosport is an excellent resource for modifying your modern 993 and up Porsche. Check out BBIAutosport.com. But for today, let's get into the show. It's Betim Berisha on the Smoking Tire Podcast. Happy motherfucking Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Every bit of content that the audience has heard to this point was recorded before I went on vacation. So it's been a while since I did a show.
Welcome back.
Nice to see you. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I recommend Florida for 4 days a year.
What part of Florida are we at?
We went to the Keys. Went to which is all right. It is a Jimmy Buffett song down there.
I love it the whole time.
It's a whole bunch of people that just exited reality, and then like the other 90% of the population to serve them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's the people who live on the water who are like, you know what? I was tired of humans and taxes, so here I am. And then there's everyone else who's like, you know, yes, sir. Can I scrub your fucking hull?
Right.
But the water's warm, and it's nice.
That's cool. Yeah.
Isla Mirada.
I want to go.
You ever been to the Florida Keys?
I have. When I got my driver's permit, my dad took me down there, and I drove the Keys myself in the rental car.
Yeah.
And then him and I tried driving it down a boat launch ramp.
Rental car?
Yeah, my dad was wild.
How were you launching a boat? Or
no,
were you
we were
just,
driving the rental car down, see how far we could go. My dad's like, let's check it out. I'm 15 at the time.
Yeah, that probably seemed wise.
That was good. Yeah.
I mean, you must follow the Qualified Captain on Instagram,
I
right?
just started. My wife bought me some shirts, and she's like, "You need to follow this."
Yeah. It's pretty much the only Instagram. You can make. I would exit all of social media, but keep the Qualified Captain and Baller Busters. Those are my two, my go-tos.
Everything else can go.
Everything else can fucking go.
That's
and
awesome.
we saw lots of qualified behavior down there.
I mean, you get those margaritas going with the Jimmy Buffett and the
Dude.
Yeah.
And there's no fucking laws.
Yeah.
From what I gather, there are no laws in that state.
It doesn't feel like it.
No. I mean, I went hunting for iguanas in a residential neighborhood. Let's just call it.
I saw that. Yeah.
Which is fun as fuck.
Yeah, I bet.
Not even gonna lie.
So invasive species.
Invasive species.
Like they're everywhere down there.
It's a problem, and every female iguana can birth 50 new iguanas every year.
Isn't it crazy that invasive species just go rampant, but you can't get a panda to have a baby in captivity? Like, can we make this invasive somewhere for just like a year or two?
Yeah, and there's a lot of invasive species down there. We went to we did like a fan boat tour on the Everglades, which I recommend. That's fun.
Yeah.
And someone on the tour, it was like 12 people. Someone was like, I was here 20 years ago and saw like some raccoons and stuff out here, and the guy was like, I'm sorry, ma'am. Pythons ate all those. There's no more land mammals here.
Mm-hmm.
The pythons have eaten everything because they're invasive. And there's invasive like plants.
And are a lot of these invasive because, hey, I thought it was a good idea to buy a python?
Yep.
And Florida's like a perfect breeding ground for what weird animals?
Yep.
Got it. Makes sense.
Really, iguanas, dude. People brought them in as pets and then released them into the wild. And just like, yeah, you know what? Fuck this. And just like...
You'll be happier.
That's lionfish. Same thing. They're all talking about the lionfish. Yep. People bought them to put in their tanks, and then they were like, they're eating all my other fish, which is the whole thing that they do.
Yeah.
And then they put them in the fucking ocean.
Yeah, besides the look, they're called lionfish. What do lions do? They eat shit.
Yeah. And I went to a couple restaurants where like the lionfish was like the delicacy because apparently they're delicious.
Yeah.
But they're fucking shit up down there.
Uni in Santa Barbara, it crushes all of the seaweed.
Right.
And all the entire floor is just wiped clean because of the sea urchins. Yeah.
God damn, is it tasty.
It's so good.
We didn't eat any iguana, but people do.
Yeah?
There are people that eat them.
That just seems sketchy to me.
But my friend Madi, who runs, shout out to Iguana Safari Tours.
Right.
You can go iguana hunting with Madi. It's
great.
fucking fun. I mean, it's very challenging and very fun.
Yeah.
But but he has a tanner that he's working with, so we're gonna have some watch straps made
rad.
from the iguanas I shot.
I want to buy one.
Some of them are very pretty.
Yeah.
Like I think you only get like one per iguana.
Right.
But like we're gonna have a couple.
But at least they're not going to waste.
Not totally to waste, no.
Yeah.
And they took the rest of them and they feed other things with them.
Got it.
They're apparently not delicious. Yeah. Some cultures eat them, but like Marty was like, yeah, they're like not very good.
Yeah, go get chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, you ever have alligator?
Yeah.
It's great unless
Florida.
you've had chicken.
Yeah, I've had every type of meat ever in Florida except for iguana. But you go to Florida if you want to eat crazy meat. Every year we go to Sebring. Like, cool, I want to try just alligator,
Iceland
shark.
also. Yeah, Iceland, shark and horse.
Yeah.
They eat in Iceland. Yeah. Didn't you eat horse in Iceland?
I did.
Was it good?
Tasted like a sirloin.
Yeah.
It didn't do anything for me.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's there.
Lean.
Super lean protein.
I'm going to Finland on Monday, and someone was like, "Oh, while you're there, try the reindeer." I'm like, okay. We'll ask about that.
Which one? Don or Blitzen?
Fucking Blitzen.
Right.
Blitzen is what's up. I heard he was conspiring to conspire.
Yeah.
So he gets what he has coming to him.
Yeah, he's going down.
Anyway, did you say this is your first time here? Have I only been?
No, we've podcasted. This is my first time on this side of the table.
No, I mean in this
That side of the table.
Oh, just on that side of the table.
Yeah, I've been here in your location.
Oh,
and,
all right.
and I've been in your seat.
Oh, I didn't realize it was before we switched sides, right?
Yeah.
You're now in our top like 5% of recurring. Guests.
Nice. Yeah, I live close. I like hanging out with you, so may as well do this podcast also.
Yeah, and you're alive.
Yeah, I'm alive. That's good.
So there's that.
Yeah.
You're almost not.
Right.
I really wish you didn't just tell the goddamn story while we're eating salads.
I could tell it again.
This is
I
why.
had my mouth full.
This is why that I knew when I ordered the salads that this was dangerous. This was going to happen.
I didn't know if we would tell that story on the show.
Don't give
so that's why I let
away.
it
You
go.
never give away what we can sell. That's the number one lesson from the film The Great White Hype.
You weren't paying attention anyway, so we can do it
I
again.
was trying to not pay attention.
You're like, shut up, stop
I'm
talking.
like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
This is the podcast. We're
Yeah.
doing it now, but there's no microphones.
Right. Yeah.
So like,
Stop talking.
So like, I don't know. A couple weeks ago, I was in Rancho Santa Fe, and I saw my friend Jennifer Nicole.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Did you hear Betim had a massive heart attack?" And I was like, "No. What the fuck?"
That's because I didn't tell anyone.
That's because you didn't tell anyone.
Right.
Which, whatever.
Your social media game needs help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, BTW, massive heart attack.
Yeah.
But I was like, what the fuck? I texted. You're fine. Fine is a relative term, but not dead.
Right. Not dead. Important.
On the mend. But like, this was weird because like, to me, you're like a very fit person.
Try to be. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I try to pay attention to it.
You are a fit person.
Yeah.
Like you're among the more fit of my friends that are in our age bracket.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah,
like,
I try to be. It was a wild ride, Matt. Like, you know how Mike Tyson says, like, everybody's got a plan until you get hit?
Yeah.
That's
so you
what-
get punched in the face.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. It was everything's cool, getting ready to go out on a boat with my son, and then I was starting to have a heart attack. Like, that morning, before that happened, I took my dog for a run.
Yeah.
Beautiful Saturday morning. This was, tomorrow will be 12 weeks since I had a heart attack, and then 11 weeks since I had my open heart surgery. So I had a double bypass also to correct the issues.
And Zach has a photo.
I do.
Zach has
Yeah.
It's not particularly gruesome photo.
No, and this photo is, so that's those big ass tubes in my chest and stomach.
It's
And,
it's medium gruesome.
It's medium
not
gruesome.
it's not like as gruesome as it could be, but it's not great.
That was a really good day. So that's that day after I woke up from surgery, and
You
that
actually look way more Indian in this photo.
Well, I had my hair all up. Yeah.
This photo is like the most Indian you've ever looked.
Maybe
I tried
the
day to day
23andMe,
you
yeah.
look more Californian than Indian.
Right,
But in
but
this photo, I'm like, what the fuck? You look so
It's
Indian.
pretty Indian right there. It is. No, but it was crazy. So that was a good day because I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna make it. Because all the way up until then, it was touch and go.
Yeah.
And like right now, if I were to talk about it right now, I'm in a great spot. I'm in recovery. I'll never be the same. Too much damage happened to my heart because of the heart attack. So I have to get used to a new patient life.
Which is what?
I don't know yet. Like I said, it's only been 3 months. And so I'm still in cardiac rehab. So 3 times a week, I'm hooked up to wires like that. and exercising for an hour and a half a day. And
Just
then
cardio? Is that just like walking, jogging?
Like I'm, no offense to anybody, but I am working out with 75-year-old diabetics, right? And they're looking at me like I'm the fucking weird dude in there, which I am. And they're like, every one of them, what happened to you? Why are you in here right now?
Yeah,
you know, and
I've been there. When I had my back surgery at 21, and everyone in the spine rehab center was like old as fuck. They're looking at me like, what's up with this fucking loser?
Making fun of you in the corner. Like, fuck this guy, don't talk to him.
Yeah.
But yeah,
walking real slow.
That's how it's been. Like even up until about a month ago, even talking I would get out of breath.
Really?
So because they have to collapse a lung. They collapsed part of the other one, so I had to relearn how to breathe. And then I was on my back for a little over 2 weeks without getting up. So I had to relearn how to walk a couple days after that picture. There was a lot of like mental damage because of what you put the people around you through. Like my wife, she was such a beast, such a rock through the whole thing. My dad, but I told them, I was like, I don't want anybody here. I don't want my mom. I don't want anybody who's going to be upset to see me like this. Let me get through it. Let me do this on my own. You stay here, mom, or my wife and my dad, because they're both keep a real cool level head on them. And that's what I need around me. Like I in dramatic situations or wild situations, I have a weird ability to be able to calm my head down and just think through things, process it. Like, look, when I was having a heart attack, I lost control of my body. Like I was shaking uncontrollably. The pain was 11 out of 10, but I remember thinking the only thing I do have control of is what I think right now and like trying to stay conscious. So that was really important through the healing process. Is one of the other part there was staying really positive. Because
how do you stay really positive while you're having a heart attack?
This bed is comfortable, I gotta tell you.
Well, it's more like
it's a real nice day. It's
more grape juice.
It's more like
pretty good.
It's more like I kept imagining what the recovery would feel like. I kept imagining getting out of there. I kept imagining what it's like going to be home again. So that kept me focused on that, and I'm like, this shit will pass. I'm going to get through it. I got through every other hard fucking thing in my life. I'll get through this one. But I didn't know at the time.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. I didn't know at the time how bad it was. So in chronological order, Saturday morning, I was going to take my son out with my neighbor. They have a couple kids and a boat in the harbor in Huntington Beach. So we drive there. I felt something on the drive, very, very faint, very weird. I'm like, nothing. Drank some water. I was fine. And keep in mind, like this is what I said. I just got done with running my dog. Everything was a beautiful day. Get down there and I'm helping him take the bow cover off the boat and unsnap everything. And I'm like, I'm kind of out of breath. And so I'm sitting there. Take the bow cover off, put our bag in the boat, and I was like, I just got to sit down for a minute. And I remember feeling uncomfortable. I was like, this doesn't feel right. I'm starting to get more and more out of breath and more labored to do anything. So I just stopped for a second. I told my son, I'm like, hey, we can't go out on this boat. But I was still battling with it because I knew he really wanted to. And he's 7. And so I said, Dad needs your help. I'm feeling something that I haven't felt before, and I don't like it. So why don't we go out on the boat later, but let's go home. And it got weird because I had a really light bag, just a couple extra sweater and everything like that. And I had to take a knee 3 times walking up the dock, about 50 yards. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I was like, shit. So I get in the car and I'm still out of breath, but I'm still keeping it together. Drive out of the parking lot on the way, and then it just starts hitting hard. Also, my heart starts pounding, and then I can't catch a breath, right? I'm like, what's going on? It's not getting any easier, and I'm relaxed right now. And then it went from like in about a 30-second period from like this is manageable to holy shit, what am I doing behind the wheel? And I told my son, I'm like, look, this isn't going to be good. We may have to pull over, but talk to me, sing to me, keep me going. And I remember so I called my wife. I'm like, hey, I need you in the front yard. I'm coming home. I'm only about 5 minutes away from the house. So the harbor is like 10 minutes from my place. Get there. What I should have done, and everybody's going to be like, you fucking idiot. I should have called 911. The furthest thing from my mind. And I don't know why I didn't even think that, but I was just like, I just got to get home, get my wife in the car, and take me to the emergency room. Because I thought at that point there still might be a chance that maybe I'm having a panic attack. Because I've never had one of those. So I was like, maybe. Oh,
I have. It feels like every time I've had one, and I've had a bunch.
Right.
absolutely think I could be having a heart attack.
Like you're considering it,
100%.
right? And that's so
100%.
I've read about that a lot. A lot of my friends have had that. So I was like, fuck, it's like maybe I'm stressed out. I just don't know it. I got to work through some stuff. But there was a chance that I was having a panic attack. So I called my wife. I go, I'm either having a panic attack or a heart attack. But whatever it is, I don't want to risk it. Meet me in the front yard. We're going to trade seats. And by the time I got there, I was at the light in Golden West and Edinger. And I started kind of like, I was like, stay awake, stay awake, stay awake.
Yeah.
And I was like, got to get your boy safe, right? So got home, swapped out. She's like, what the fuck's going on with you?
Yeah.
And by that time, I started sweating profusely. And when she got in the car, I could start feeling the pain creeping up my arm. I'm like, fuck, this is a heart attack. And she's like, there's no way. And I'm like, yep, it's happening. So the pain was 11 out of 10. It was, I've broken a lot of bones in my body, and everybody says, pain. But this was a very weird, foreign, uncomfortable pain. It went from basically belly button to bottom of my throat, and then into my arm. But every time I took a breath, it felt like I was breathing into a box that has nails stabbed into it. Like it was this sharp, very, very distinct sharp pain of my lungs expanding into something. I could not control the rate of my breath, couldn't control my heartbeat. I mean, obviously you can't, but I just did everything I could to try to remain calm. And then so I told my wife, like, drop me off at the circle. There's no way I can walk in because I'm like leaning against the door.
Was Amy running red lights and shit?
Not at that point. She was heavy on the throttle. We were in the Bronco, so she's like you're driving around shit. And we have a emergency room, Huntington Beach Hospital. I'll call them out. Right by our house.
Not for the reason you fucking
No, I got a fucking bone to pick with them. So, and that's still going to happen. So she drops me off at the circle. I go in. I told the lady, I'm like, hey, look, I'm having a heart attack. And I was like, my wife is parking with my son. They'll be in shortly. And so she finds a parking spot, and the lady's like, well, you need to fill out this paperwork. I'm like, I don't think I can do that right now. And I need help from a doctor. I'm looking past her. She's like, sir, you need to calm down, and you need to sit here and fill this paperwork out. That's our procedure. I said, is your procedure letting people die right here in the waiting room? Because I was holding the pen, and I remember so I pulled my wallet out, and I'm trying to get my cards out, but I can't. I'm shaking, right, and I'm dripping sweat all over the desk, and I think she thought I was like a fentanyl addict or something, because she told me, she's like, sir, if you were having a heart attack, there's no way you could have walked in this place. I said, I don't know about all that, but I tell you what, this is very foreign. All the signs, I can't even hold this pen. So she's like, well, then you're going to have to wait. So I sat in the waiting room, shaking uncontrollably and doing everything I could to stay conscious. And then my wife comes in with my son. I'm like, babe, we need help. She's like, what the fuck are you doing right here? She's like, I thought, because this has been like almost 10, 15 minutes by the time she parked. And I'm like, she won't let me. She's like, he needs to fill out and follow. She's like, are you crazy? So she's like, all right, fuck it. My wife fills it all out. She's like, I can fill it out, just get him help. And so I'm sitting there. There's nobody else in the waiting room, rocking back and forth. And this is, a lot of people ask me how my family have handled it, and they've handled it so well. Even my little son, he's 7, he walks up to me, and I remember I'm hunched over, just trying to breathe, and he goes, Dad, are you going to die?
Oh, Jesus.
And I go, no, bud. I just have something happening that I don't know. It's very unfamiliar to me, and I need help. And he took that to the bank. He's like, cool, good. Because you need to stay around, and then walks off. Like, that was the last time he was worried about it, which was, like, I don't know how to look at
He's
that.
as calm as you
Well,
are.
the way I looked at it was he trusted my word that much.
Yeah.
Which was beautiful. So now he was more interested in what was happening. So we ended up buying him the books about cardiology and all that stuff for kids. And so
he's
now
going to be a cardiologist now.
Yeah, he hates all that stuff because he's mad at that lady he's still pissed at that lady. So finally my wife fills the paperwork out. I get to the admitting nurse, and she also tells me that I need to calm down because I walked from there into the thing, and she's like, what's wrong with you? She's like, I'm having a heart attack right now. She's like, no, blood pressure, oxygenation, low oxygen in my blood, heart rate elevated. Blood pressure was oddly decent and that's why she was like, no, you're having a panic attack. You just need to calm down. I said, I have tremendous pain in my arm. I've never felt this amount of pain, not concentrated in one small area across. I was like, this is too much. And this nurse walks by, this guy. I remember he looks, he goes, huh, shit. He goes, what are your symptoms again? And I go, I'm having a fucking heart attack. And he's like, shit, cuts my shirt off, puts the EKG on me. He goes, "Oh my God, you are having a massive heart attack right now. Not like I don't know how you're sustaining." And so they gave me some morphine and something else to like lower my heart rate down, because as I'm learning, not then but now throughout this process, is that your brain doesn't know that your heart is injured. Your brain knows that you're not carrying oxygen or oxygen-rich blood to the rest of your body, your organs, your extremities, your brain, everything. So your brain says, work overtime. It's like having a boost leak. Your turbo doesn't know. It's just not meeting manifold pressure. It's just like, let's overspin this motherfucker.
Yeah.
And so what was happening is that I had and I'll get into this later, but so they call another ambulance. They're like, we can't handle this type of trauma. So another ambulance picks me up, takes me to Fountain Valley. Fountain Valley, I mean, by the time I get there, like everybody's remaining pretty calm. I'm pretty calm. It's just, I'm like, okay, I can handle this level of where we're at currently. Anything more, I'm probably going to pass out. And so they're like, yeah, just stay with us. We'll get you to the hospital. I get there, and there was a team of like 20 people. They ripped me out, like full drama, like cut my pants off, put me in the cath lab. There was a group of 4 women there. Then it's funny because they've reached out to me on Instagram. They didn't know if I made it or not, but I'll let you read the messages. It's pretty wild. But anyways, they stuck one tube up through my hip here, through my artery, and one up here. One was a camera. One was with a stent, prepared to stent a clogged artery. And then they're trying to x-ray at the same time, but they just know that I'm tanking. They get in there, they're like, shit, you have an aneurysm on your left main artery, and you have calcification and clotting and a lot of fucking damage. And they're like, we can't fix this. So what are the options? And I'm sitting here talking to the cardiologist. I'm talking to everybody very clearly. I'm like, what are our options now? Well, we can try to stent the other deal, but if we stent this, I go, well, how long is the heal time for that before I can get an open heart? And they said at least 2 to 3 weeks. I go, I don't think I can make 2 to 3 weeks sitting here, right? And they're like, no. So they said, we're going to try to stabilize you. So they stuck a balloon in my heart, left side of my chamber. So the left part of your heart is responsible for removing fluid from your body, evacuating fluid from your lungs, and mitigating fluid retention and supplying oxygenated blood to your lungs as well, and pulling toxins out. And so that was getting no blood. That was what was going down. So as we're talking, I'm developing a tremendous amount of scar tissue and tanking, like physically tanking. So they put a balloon in that side of the heart to keep it pumping, to try to get blood in there, to keep the muscle itself oxygenated so that you don't get more death or atrophy and scar tissue, because the muscle tissue will die if it's not supplied with blood. Just like any the gangrene or any type of I forgot what that word is, but
Like frostbite or something?
Yeah, it starts with an N.
Oh, necrotic.
Yeah.
Necrosis.
Yeah, necrosis, yeah. So that's a Saturday. Sunday, I wake up in the hospital, go to bed at night. We're still talking. Everything's like, okay, we can stabilize him. Things are going in the right direction. But I'm slowly tanking. I'm slowly going down, which means the blood pressure is dropping. Oxygenation in my blood's dropping. So they put oxygen in, turn that all the way up. Kind of helps a little bit, but then I'm just progressively getting worse every hour. And so then they give me medicine to try to raise my blood pressure. It works a little bit, but then it keeps going down. My heart's just getting weaker. And so Monday morning, I'm eating like a banana and like still in a lot of pain, but I'm hopped up on like all kinds of
painkillers, tons of stuff. Yeah,
tons of stuff. So I wake up that Monday morning, and the cardiologist, great guy named Dr. Afifi, comes up, and he says, he's like, hey, we've tried everything. I'm like, what are you talking about? As I'm eating my breakfast, right? Like, what are you talking about? We tried everything. We have to intubate you. So we're going to put you under and put a breathing tube in and try to stabilize you, because everything we do, there's a little blip in improvement, and then it just, the trajectory keeps going down. And so I said, well, what's the fix? We don't know yet. We need to buy time by putting you under, relaxing your body, and come up with a plan. Try to figure out what we're going to do here. Because he's like, we can't operate on you. Your heart's too weak. It won't sustain, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, fuck, this is pretty serious. Call my wife. She's at BBI working some stuff out and telling the group over there what's going on. And she's like, I was like, you need to get to the hospital right now. And she's like, and the cardiologist literally took the phone out. He's like, you got 5 minutes to get here. and if you want to say hi to him. So that happened. I ended up going under, and that was Monday morning. Monday at about noon, my wife was she was there the whole time. She was telling me that I just kept tanking, and they're like, "Well, fuck now." They tell her, she's like, "Well, what else are we gonna do?" She's like, "Well, the cardiologist and the whole team, they're like, well, we gotta pray now." She's like, "Fucking pray?" She's like, "Great, I've been doing that the whole time, but like, what do you mean pray? Like, what are you guys gonna do?" She's like, "It's a mechanical issue he's having. Fucking fix it." And they're like, "It's not that. It's not like that. He suffered too much damage through the heart attack because I had such a severe heart attack for so long that it really wreaked havoc." So I ended up continuing to tank. So now she's like, "Well, what else can we do?" And he's like, the doctor's like, "I think the next step is we got to figure out how to put him on life support, but we don't have that here." And we don't have.
It's like a full hospital. They don't.
Well,
It's a full hospital.
It's a specific.
It's a
kind of
specific
life support.
machine. It's called an ECMO machine, and UCLA has one. Scripps has one in San Diego, and Cedars-Sinai. Those are the three hospitals. Hoag doesn't even have a dual one where they need to take over the lung function because my lungs were really bad. Also,
So it's heart and lungs. It has to,
it would have to do heart and lungs because my heart wasn't pulling the bacteria and everything out of my lungs. So my lungs are slowly collapsing as we're going through all this also. So 5 hours later of my wife going to war with the insurance company because my insurance, that was outside of our network, she was able to convince them to send me up to UCLA. There's a wonderful, really, really, really solid cardiac and pulmonary.
You know what's a really fucked up thing about our healthcare system? A lot. Every time I interact with a friend or a family member that has a very serious problem, whether it's what you're describing, a heart attack or cancer or whatever, if they don't have a really strong advocate, a partner, a wife, a parent, that's literally like hammering the system,
That's ready to come in with a knife. And,
they don't get cared for shit.
Isn't that crazy?
It's when John was dying, my brother-in-law, his wife, Jillian, fucking, if she wants to be, she's a fucking hurricane. And she will fuck people up.
Oh, yeah.
And if she didn't regularly raise absolute hell, he wouldn't have gotten the kind of care that he ended up getting. You know, it's just, I hear this shit over and over. If you don't have that advocate going to war, you die.
100%. You need an advocate, and you need somebody who can keep their head on their shoulders, but be a fucking like Tasmanian devil. You know, but pragmatic. So we're not cussing because I'll hang up on you. Like you have to be so precise but so forceful. That's my wife. She's to a T. She's a beast, and she gets shit done, and she got this done. So she got a helicopter to airlift me because they're like, "Oh, we'll put him in an ambulance." This is Monday at like 5 p.m. You know, to go from fucking Orange County to here to the middle of Hollywood. Give me a fucking break.
It's a 3-hour drive.
She's
bro.
like, he's gonna die in the ambulance. So they got the helicopter, but I was still so unstable that they needed me to stop tanking. So I finally at about 6:37 showed some signs of fighting back, and I hit what they call rock bottom, and they're like, he has a very, very low chance of survival at this rate, but it looks like it's not going down right now. So then helicopter comes, and as soon as I get in the helicopter, I get put in the care of UCLA staff. They peeled me off a few medicines, they put me on some other ones, and I started to stabilize. And I started to improve. I fucking woke up in the helicopter.
That's wild.
I woke up out of essentially a medically induced coma.
Accidentally woke up?
This is I didn't tell you guys out there. This is I don't.
Glad you saved the gold for the.
So
fucking...
there's a lot of weird gold
now
here.
let's take a break for some hats.
Find out why Betim's alive after this message.
So I've always had this weird
Trying
thing.
to stay healthy. Factor meals are for you.
Athletic Greens. This
AG1.
This fucking AG1 will get you going.
Maybe if they'd inject. No, I'm just
right. No, it's so I've always had this weird thing, and my wife. It's a joke between my wife and I. Fundamentally, I don't like helicopters. I don't like what they stand for. They're like physically they're trying to bend themselves in half the whole time. You have a counter rotating blade pushing an opposite
Most people
force.
are like, they crash a lot, and you're like, here's a real scientific reason.
Yeah,
to think
and so
this is shady
I've
as
never been in a
fuck.
helicopter ever.
They're shady.
They're shady as fuck.
Yeah, they're shady.
They're like just some crazy asshole invented it way back in the day, and people are like, cool, that seems to work. Let's do more of that. Scares the shit out of me. So I remember very vividly me being in a helicopter, and I was like, motherfucker. And, and it kind of was like an internal joke for myself. But I was slowly waking up, but I was under so much medication, I couldn't open my eyes because I think they were taped. And they apparently wrap you real tight, for transport.
Yeah.
I couldn't even wiggle my toe because the pain was so insane. All I wanted to do was try to tell them to give me more of whatever is there.
Yeah.
I want out. I want to get knocked out again. But I woke up.
Oh, that's not great.
No, so that I had to, and I remember so vividly listening to them talk to each other. They were so polite with each other, so nice, and like I can hear them talking. I can hear the thumping of the fucking helicopter. And I was like, son of a bitch.
But you can't communicate back.
I can't even move my fucking toe. I couldn't even. I remember I could feel the bed. My feet were like this.
Yeah.
I could feel
pressed against it.
Pressed against it, but I couldn't even tap my toe. I remember thinking, I'm like, this is full paralysis.
I assume you could. You had a tube in your mouth, right?
Yeah,
so you couldn't talk.
I was tubed, taped,
Yeah.
and I think my eyes were taped. That's why I couldn't open an eye.
I woke up from anesthesia once, like accidentally.
So this is
It's fucking. I was just getting my wisdom teeth out.
Could you
We're not talking about heart attack, but I could see
Yep.
and I could hear, but I couldn't speak or move.
Same shit.
It was fucked up.
So you know.
I know.
That's what happened.
It was fucked up.
Yeah.
Like really, and as soon as the fucking doctor noticed my eyes were open, I could see the panic in his eyes.
Yeah.
And then I was back out again in 5 seconds because he was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
But like, I feel your pain on this one.
But I couldn't communicate that because
No,
my eyes,
it's
my
fuck. No, it's in,
So
in
you
a
know.
helicopter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you.
That's not
I'm glad
good,
you know.
But I
because
understand how that feels. and
fucking
it's
crazy.
Fucked up.
Crazy.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it burns such a sharp memories timestamp in your
oh,
head.
I'll never forget those
Yeah.
10 seconds
Yeah.
as long as I fucking live. I
Yeah.
woke up with he had to break my wisdom tooth to get it out.
Yeah.
And I woke up to eyes open, crunch. Oh my God. That's what I woke up to.
That's the
It was fucked up, dude.
And you can't fucking move.
Nope. Couldn't
And you
do
can't
anything.
communicate.
Just
Look,
fucking
you're like looking
wide-eyed,
at- yeah.
wide-eyed, like somebody noticed my fucking eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Oh.
okay.
Yeah,
So back
okay.
to the helicopter, but I feel you on this.
Yeah.
This is fucked up.
So that happened. I finally go back under. Get to the hospital. My dad's waiting for me there, and he says there was like a team of. They're all waiting, right? They're
Yeah.
like, we got a bad case. I get in there. He said the surgeon.
Could any of your family go? Could Amy go in the helicopter with you?
No,
Or nobody?
nobody.
So they're sitting in traffic on the fucking 405.
My wife, my dad, my dad left before I left, so he's like,
okay.
fuck it, I'll get up there. My dad was up there like an hour and a half earlier because he didn't know that I wasn't
He didn't know-
stabilizing.
Right. Okay.
And so the helicopter's just waiting for me, sitting up
it's
there.
like a Top Gear race.
Yeah, it was. He beat me.
Did he take a Veyron?
Hammond is having a heart attack, but we have to stabilize him before the helic. I'll leave now in a Jag.
Yeah, so he beat me. He said as soon as he got there, he finally felt better because he saw the way that people were reacting. As soon as I got in, the doctor looked, and I had like a rack of fucking drip. Like I have scars here. I had a what's called a swan where they go in through here. It was permanent. I had a permanent here too in my. I'm just poked. I'm
Ports.
like,
You had ports.
I had ports everywhere.
Yeah.
I was being pumped full of a lot of shit. My dad said the guy pulled like 6 of the bags off. He's like, I want that off. Put these 2 on, and he goes, 30 minutes after that happened, you woke back up. And he goes, every time you started feeling better, you woke back up. And that's when they asked my wife, like, does he have a fentanyl problem or something like that? Because he's on so much medication to keep him down that we can't give him anymore. His heart isn't strong enough to handle it. So what do we do? And she's like, no, he's fucking barely, like, doesn't do shit really. He's like, works a lot. That's all he does.
So you were waking up despite this medicine, and they were
that was
like,
keeping
your
me supposed to be
tolerance
keeping me
very
in a
high.
medically induced coma, right?
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and so, but I remember waking up there, and my dad's like, "Oh, my dad has a thick accent. He's like, he's just stubborn. He'll be fine." And so,
His body's too strong for drugs.
but here's another.
My son can beat anything.
So the helicopter was a little brain damaging, right?
Yeah.
So I wake up, I have the tube in my mouth, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, what? The other thing that woke me up is I couldn't breathe. So when I told you earlier, the left side of your heart's responsible for removing fluid from your lungs. The tube comes down to about mid-throat, and there's 2 of them there. And then I had a feeding tube through my nose. And I couldn't breathe because I was creating so much mucus that my body wasn't handling, that when the pump would pump the oxygen out, it'd suck the mucus into the tube.
Yikes.
And then back out. So then they gave me a pen to write on because I was like, I need to talk to you. I can't fucking breathe. And by then my wife's there, and the machine's screaming because every time oxygen levels start to drop, that screams, and then the machine trying to give you oxygen goes up. And I remember the peak that machine can do is whatever the setting is, 9.8. I'm like looking around. I'm like, fucking, this thing's like beep 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 beep. Nobody's around, and I'm like slowly like suffocating. And so finally I write on the board. I'm like, I can't breathe, and the nurse at the time they were still a little bit concerned that I kept waking up. And my wife's like, he's fucking waking up because he can't breathe. That's 100%. And I'm also kind of claustrophobic. So I'm on my back. Yeah. I'm strapped down. I can't bend my leg because it's in a brace because I have that balloon in my heart.
Yeah.
And you can't bend that thing. And so I'm pretty stabilized. And I'm going like this to the lady. I'm like, I need help. And I heard the other guy, well, we x-rayed his chest. It looks fine. I'm like, it's fucking here. Not here. It's here. And when I did that, she thought I was going to pull this thing out, so they fucking tied my hands to the bed. Jesus. So I'm sitting there. This is in the middle of the night at this point. I'm sitting there, can't breathe, supposed to be knocked out, and my hands are tied. I remember pulling on them so hard, I damaged a bunch of nerves in my arm because I was like, I don't like being that was the very fucking limit of what I think I can handle mentally without breaking down. That was the fucking bit. And so I remember thinking in my head, that was the first time I was like, fuck, maybe it'd be easier to let go. But I was like, nope, got a kid, got because I was it was fucking with my head quite a bit. I was like, nope, I have more life to live. I'm going to keep fighting, keep being positive. And I just kept saying, fuck, this will pass. You've been through a lot. This will pass. You'll get through it. You get through it. You get through it. And that's what, like, every step of the way along the way was like, through that process was minute by minute, fight, right? And so that was 18 hours of that shit. So that was hard. It's still hard. But so then finally, I started to stabilize enough, and I'm awake, but I still have this fucking... there's all this shit, and I was asking her, please, and finally, the after 12 hours, the nurse changes. The morning nurse comes at 7 a.m., and I was just like this, right, and I told her, I will not pull this out. I need help. I can't breathe, and she's like, fuck. So she gives me a suction tube, and the phlegm was so thick that it wouldn't pull out, and she's like, and so she's like, kind of like telling me, she's like, it's cleared. It's not pulling anything out, but I could feel it like in there. And I'm like, fuck. So I just had to endure it. But I said, don't strap my hands. I promise I'm not going to pull this thing out. I wrote that on the little whiteboard that they had. It was the best fucking feeling when they pulled it out. And I would swear the chunk was like something like this came out with it. Ugh. It was disgusting. And I remember taking a deep breath. I was like, oh my God, I can breathe. And I was like, you guys... I thought it was like 2 days that I was like that.
It's probably making it so much worse. Oh, dude. I mean, to be in all that shit and then also not be able to fucking breathe on top of it.
And not being able to communicate.
Especially because, like, not being able to breathe is, like, a symptom of the thing also.
Right.
So if you've got, like, now breathe through a straw. Like, of course.
That's getting clogged with your own phlegm.
Yeah.
Because your heart's not working right.
Yikes.
Right. So that was shit. And so, but I tried to keep a cool head. I tried to stay, like, look... And I was like, no, you have no other fucking option. You're in this right now. You have to go through it. So you can either go through it panicking or you go through it calm, minute by minute. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. So 2.5 weeks on a hospital bed.
Otherwise you can spin yourself into like a panic attack, make your own.
Like I say this so much now, when you don't have the option to control your surroundings and they're in control of you, the only thing you have left is your mind. Mm-hmm. And that's like... That's it. So, so then that was like Tuesday. Wednesday, I start to stabilize, and I'm awake. I'm just like waking up, going to sleep. They reduced all of my medicine. I'm awake now, right? talking to my wife, joking with her, like, we're going to get through this shit. I started getting real constipated because I haven't shit in, like, fucking, it's almost a week
Opiates.
now.
Yeah.
And the opiates are, that was horrible. And so I'm eating prunes and trying to do all that stuff. The staff was awesome there. Everybody was great. Everybody was great.
Hey, was it UCLA, you said? Or
Yeah,
Cedar Center?
UCLA.
Okay.
And so they come to me on Thursday like, hey, look, if you can continue this path and stabilize, I'm like, I'm out. Great. Yeah, like, I don't know how to make it better or worse, but I'll do whatever you guys say. We can then perform surgery on you by Saturday. I'm like, yes. So that puts me at a week, right? From heart attack to recovery. Oh, by the way, they had to me twice.
No way.
Once, not because I went into cardiac arrest. Once because my heart just started fucking going random.
Oh, AFib.
Yeah. And I told my wife when I was sitting there, I was like, come here, give me your hand. She puts it on there and she like pulled it back. It felt like gravel. Like, felt like my heart was pumping gravel through it. And she was like, that's fucking disgusting.
Because I think your heart rate, it goes to like 210 or some crazy number and it can be like a runaway train. My dad has that genetically, and 2 years ago he had to stop by, he's an ER doctor, and he had to go to the hospital to get shocked, like, on his way home. And he's like, yeah, how's it going? I'm like, what is this? He's like, yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah,
they reset you with like a
it's like the power button. You go click, click real quick. You're like, hopefully the computer fires back up. Yeah, so that happened a couple times.
Were you awake for that?
Yeah. It was not, at that point, I've had so many holes in me and and so many like weird things happening, and the pain and like trying to breathe and like the whole anything at that fucking point, anything was better than not being able to breathe.
Yeah.
So that when they zapped you the second time, I was like, cool, fuck, let's do it. Whatever. So then Friday night, everything's good. I'm just trying to be cool. Getting real uncomfortable, but then they say, okay, Saturday morning, we're taking you in at 7. So they did perform a double bypass. They thought it was going to be triple. They got in there like, oh, we can do this with double. They pulled this artery out of my left arm. Ugh. Yeah, so it's like they made a cut right here, and then this one under my watch right there, and they pulled a big artery out of there, which is good. It's better than a vein, apparently. It lasts longer. Huh. They said it went well, but they're like, your heart is fucked. Like, you suffered too much trauma from the heart attack. And so they're like, your healing process is going to be a long road. One of my cardiologists here in Orange County is like, oh, yeah, you'll be back to normal in no time, and your life is going to be perfect, and you're going to realize how sick you were after 5 weeks. And like 5 weeks, I was like, I can barely stand up still. Like, I'm lightheaded just even thinking about moving. So as they did echoes and they looked at it, and they're like, yeah, it's not healing as fast as it should because there's too much scar tissue in there, but now I'm in cardiac rehab. We're paying attention to it, and we're slowly, incrementally getting me further and further, and so that's going well. I don't know what the new version of me looks like, but it's a lot less stress, a lot better eating, I needed to slow down mentally and physically, anyways.
Yeah.
I needed to lose a couple pounds. I mean, I'm down 30 pounds. Turns out a heart attack's a great weight loss program.
Yeah.
And so, what I didn't need to do is put my family through that and all that stuff, which I wish I could take that back, but
that was rude.
It was rude. Yeah. I wasn't thinking clearly.
You were just thinking about yourself.
Yeah, no, it's so selfish.
And how you need to go to the hospital.
But what caused the heart attack is, so in 2018, my wife and I got life insurance because we bought a house in 17, we had a kid in 16, so it's like,
probably a good idea.
Yeah, and at that point, I was prepping a
Plus,
car.
Morgan Freeman said so on TV.
Yeah, so we better do it, right?
Do this.
And I was actually at one point going to compete at Pikes Peak. That was been a dream of mine. And then we had our kid, and I kind of backed away from that. But so they take my cholesterol or my blood work, and they're like, "Fuck, you have really high cholesterol for being a relatively healthy guy." And this is, like I said, I could wake up on a Saturday hungover after having a great night out and run a 5K untrained and finish pretty high in my age group, top 10 or whatever in the local runs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fuck that. What are you talking about? High cholesterol? Oh, who cares? So I went to the cardiologist a little bit after that. I didn't pay much attention to it because what I did pay attention to is I went to the cardiologist through my general practitioner because I knew we were building that car for Pikes Peak in 2019, Lucy, and this was about 6 months out. And I knew I didn't have funding. and I knew it was going to be a real mad thrash to get this done. And so I asked her, I was like, how much harder can I physically push myself? Like, mentally, I think I can handle it. But physically, what do you think there is a healthy range? She goes, I'm worried.
This is a really weird thing to ask a doctor.
Yeah, she's like, I'm worried that
you're not actually driving the car.
Yeah.
You're not
an NFL
swimming,
player.
You're not
Right.
swimming the English Channel.
Right.
You're talking about how much harder can I work at work.
Right.
That's what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
But for you, does that mean staying up 21 hours a day, multiple days in a row? That's like, because I've talked to you about it, like that's what it is, right?
Yeah, that's this extended stay with or extended being awake from an extended amount of time and try to be focused.
Right.
Well, the more I learned by listening to fucking Joe Rogan and Peter Attia and Andrew Huberman, that's really bad for you.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really bad for you. And I've, for the last 17 years of my life, been doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and so she's like, I'm very concerned that you're even asking that. But you have good insurance. Let's go. So I did a stress test where they put an isotope in you.
Dude, hustle culture stinks.
It's bullshit. You know, we can get into that later. But so I get on the treadmill. Everything looks good. And they're like, well, since you're here, let's do a CT scan on your heart. So I'm like, cool. I passed the stress test. They're like, cardiovascularly, you look great. You're pumping blood everywhere. Everything looks fine. So they looked in at my heart and they said, wow, you have a really high calcium score. And the calcium score of a typical male is between 0 and I think 10 and 10 is to you're raising concern, right? I was at 1,000.
100x.
Yeah. So
that's
he's like, you have a heart of, I mean, you have a calcification of like a 85-year-old in your heart. And he goes, that's not the concern. The concern is your left main artery has an aneurysm on it. So this is in 2018, so I knew that. So I'm like, fuck, okay. So they put me on blood thinners. They put me on a statin to mitigate that. I'm like, so what do I do? They're like, well, there isn't enough information on an aneurysm on the left main artery. At that time, I was 38. There isn't enough information on the level of calcification you have. It's not directly correlated to how much actually like triglycerides and bad cholesterol you have in your bloodstream. But it's very weird. So we kept going down the rabbit hole of what it was. I was like, well, I'm data, right? I like data. So how do we find out what happened or why this is happening? So they, after all the tests and all the bullshit, you know, every 3 months we'd do, at the beginning, do a CT scan. But you don't want to do it too much because it's a tremendous amount of radiation. And my calcium score wasn't increasing. With the statins, my cholesterol was under control. I was exercising and eating relatively okay. So they think that the aneurysm they're like, well, we're not too concerned with it. So every time somebody told me I'm not too concerned with whatever is very fucking weird with me, I find a new person. I'm like, all right, look, I need to dig deeper. So 3 cardiologists later.
I need concern immediately.
Yeah, 3 cardiologists later, this young dude, which I still don't like, but he's good. He's like, I don't care about anything else, but that aneurysm is bad. So he's like, I think you either have a rheumatological issue, like, so we need to see if you have an autoimmune issue where your body's attacking the lining of your arteries, or if this is an isolated case, something happened when you're younger. So we started researching Kawasaki's disease. And I asked my parents, I was really sick as a young kid, between 1 and 3, and then I had horrible asthma till about 14. I mean, I've got scars everywhere, appendix, hernias, I feel bad for my parents. I'll tell you that. They think that I had Kawasaki's disease early on, and that's a virus that will attack the lining of your arteries near your heart.
That
so
tracks.
Yeah, and like even this morning, my rheumatologist sent me, and I drained half of my blood so they can look at other markers to make sure that we want to rule out that there's something not ongoing.
Yeah.
So they're still got to do scans on me, make sure I don't have any aneurysms anywhere else. But hopefully, what I'm hoping, this is an isolated case. But what they think
Did the
happened.
heart surgery fix that?
So we bypassed that. It's still in there, but we bypassed that, and then we bypassed. So the calcification came from the damage to the arteries so they think that I probably had this my whole life.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit comforting for me because now that we've replumbed that, I'm like, well, fuck, I can get back to it. But now I have a damaged heart that I have to slowly try to rebuild, which we'll do that. We'll get better. But
I'm guessing 18-hour days is probably not worth it, though.
No, I'm not doing that shit anymore.
That's not worthwhile.
No, it's not, because when you're laying on when I told you earlier, when you lose control and all you have is your mind left, like one thing was stuck out. When they released me from the hospital, my wife picked me up and we're going through LA. And I'm like, fuck, I couldn't protect my family right now from anything if I tried.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like that feeling.
Yeah.
The other thing was, you don't have shit without your health. Like, none of this fucking shit matters.
Yeah.
Like, nothing. Like, the business I built for 17 years, the house we bought, you know, like, I can't even take care of my son. Like, if you don't prioritize your health, which I never did. Mine was the last thing I thought about all the time. You're what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, it just takes a small something to really derail what you think any path you think you're on. It's borrowed time.
Yeah.
For everyone, you know. So it's like, do your best to take care of yourself, then handle everything else.
Yeah.
So that's like my new gig is taking care of myself, making sure that I can be effective as a good husband, dad, and a leader at BBI. And you know, it's like outside of that, the fucking noise is gone, which is great. I'm not stressed. I'm so much more relaxed now. Because now I feel truly like I'm along for the ride. Because if I push my physically too hard, like I went to Formula One, that was my first outing.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't stay for the race. I went to qualifying. I was like, fuck, this is too much. I called Dimitri. I'm like, hey, because I drove out there in a rally with Mobile One and Puma. And my wife's like, just go. You lived, you got signed off by the doctors. They're like, go. And I got there, and after qualifying, I was so beat up, and I didn't sleep very well that night. I called Dimitri. I'm like, hey, I'll buy you a flight, but you got to drive the car home. I'm going to the airport. I'm leaving. I went home.
Vegas is probably not the best choice.
No, it's not.
If you
but
were
look, I took it as this. I'm going to a race. I'm walking out of my casino. I'm taking an Uber to the whatever.
Sure.
I'm walking up here, and because I've never been to a Formula One race. All I ever want to do is see a fucking F1 car on a track. And I saw it that evening. I'm like, I'm out.
Pretty disappointing, huh?
Yeah, very, extremely.
Watching F1 races in person stinks.
I was more impressed with the infrastructure that follows.
Me too.
The traveling circus is wild.
Yeah. I thought what they built in Vegas was amazing.
Insane.
I got to drive the track.
I know. I wanted to.
incredible.
I know you text me. You're like, hey, I'm going to drive on that one time, but I didn't want to tell you that I was going through some health issues. But
Yeah.
I think you what 177 down the
173, but in a stock
fucking SUV,
truck. Yeah. And I found out later that, and you can see it in the video that I made, that when I would hit the brakes to brake at the end of the front straight, sparks were flying out
You're
of
just
the,
like
out of
boiling
the
the fucking brakes.
fucking wrecking them.
That's awesome.
Wrecking them. They were on fire when I came back to the paddock.
That's awesome.
That was not good.
Yeah.
And I was like, I should really do a cool down nap. They're like, they won't let you. I'm like, well, these brakes are done then.
You're going to need something. Yeah.
It's
Change them.
fucked.
The
Yeah.
fluid's boiled.
But I actually thought the infrastructure was quite good.
I did too.
I mean, the media leading up to it sort of primed me for everyone hates this, it's a fucking failure, all this. And then I got there and like, yeah, okay, the traffic was annoying for a little bit, but like, I don't know. I thought they did a pretty good job, all things considered.
I couldn't agree with you more because I was prepped for the same thing. I'm like, fuck, do I need to deal with this right now? I'm like 30%, and then I got there. I'm like, wow, they actually did a pretty damn good job. And the only people who hated it were the Uber drivers, and I feel bad for them but you know they would talk a bunch. So when I'm in Vegas, I take taxis anyway. So
I take taxis as well.
Yeah. But the traffic wasn't as bad. I mean, it was a little annoying, but it wasn't as bad as I thought. Everything was like 10% to what I thought it would be.
I mean, so you've never been to a race, but I went to the Monaco Grand Prix once.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
Which was awesome.
Was this when the cars were NA or turbo?
This was, I think, the first maybe or second. No, it was like 2016. It was turbo.
Yeah.
The GP2 cars sounded better than the F1 cars. But all of the complaints that people had about the Vegas track, I was not the least bit surprised by because they do all that shit in Monaco.
Yeah.
Blocking off so you can't see unless you have a ticket. Just all this
It's a business.
Stuff. Yeah.
It's a business.
And people were like acting like crazy shocked that F1 would block off certain aspects of the track so you couldn't watch. And I'm not saying I think it's right. I think it would be great if you can see for free from places.
But don't be
like,
surprised.
Having been to Monaco, I was like, oh yeah, this is what they fucking do because they're trying to get you to buy a ticket. Like,
yeah, I mean when you're putting, and I'm not siding with anybody, but logically,
no, it just is what it is.
It's a $500 million exercise. You want to sell some tickets.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I mean, in the track, for a track that was completely flat.
Yeah.
You know, to you and me, elevation makes a track.
Right.
But for a track that was flat, driving it, pretty good time.
Yeah.
It was cool. I mean, flying down the strip, you know, at $150 plus.
That's awesome.
It's an interesting exercise in scale.
Yeah.
Because those buildings are so big, but at that speed, it almost feels like driving down Fifth Avenue in New York City at 40.
Yeah, because that scale shrinks up.
Yeah, because these buildings are like, it's like a quarter mile between each building.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and you're doing, you're doing, what, at 150, you're doing like a football field in a half a second, roughly?
Flying.
Yeah, that's moving.
But the scale of the track, especially with the walls and stuff, and just weird. It was a surreal kind of vibe.
Yeah. No, I would have loved to stay because we had great accommodations from Mobile One and Red Bull, but I just didn't have it in me. But Dimitri had a good time. Yeah, he had a blast.
Good.
Yeah. So yeah.
What did you drive out there in?
Have you ever seen that 918 edition 997 kicking around my shop? Yeah, I drove that out there.
The one that was the option box?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We finished that for the client in Hawaii, and I'm actually trying to buy that car. I don't know why. I like a PDK 997.2.
Yeah, but can't you just get one of them that's not the 918 edition? Is there any value in it being a 918 edition?
I have no idea. But
my guess would be.
But we've the car's not stock anymore, so whatever it is, it is now.
Yeah.
But you know, earlier on, BBI colors were the acid green and dark gray, even before that car came. So for some reason, that car's always stuck out with me.
Yeah, it just matches now.
Yeah, but the car it was a lot of fun.
It's a good road trip car.
Yeah, it's great road. It's comfortable. It's not stiff.
It's all right.
It makes 1,000 wheel on ethanol.
Yeah. That's not great for a road trip.
Why?
Because the fuel
Oh
economy.
no, I was running it on. It's a flex fuel. I was running it on pump.
Yeah,
but if you turn it up,
Sure, yeah.
But
can you just mix that freely?
Yeah,
however.
Yeah, because we have a lot of these companies now. Even the OEs. That's where it comes from. It's a Continental sensor that just measures alcohol content in the fuel. So, and then you do a base map on pump gas, and then you do your kill map on ethanol, and then it per percentage. Yeah, you can. It extrapolates and.
Wow,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's fucking cool.
OEMs came up with this for ethanol-based fuel.
Is it? I mean, I was always told that Christian von Koenigsegg owns the patent on that.
Maybe he does.
Is that true?
I don't know.
I thought I was told that he owns the patent on that, and his company invented it, and they've licensed it to the OEM.
Wow, that's cool.
That may turn out to be untrue, but that's what I was told, and maybe that's just the legend of Christian von Koenigsegg.
I want to believe it because I think that kind of shit's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I like non-tier 1 OEMs pushing the envelope, and you know. So
he would be the kind of person that
he
came
would
up with some weird shit
exactly,
like that.
Yeah. I've had some good conversations with that guy. He doesn't know me from Sam or anybody, but every time we talk about additive manufacturing or any type of, he's just a pretty very switched on guy.
Oh yeah.
And he's very vague when you start talking to him, but if you want to narrow down if you want to talk about extrapolating data across data cells across 2 different maps, he'll walk you all the way through it. He can drill down. So that he's.
I don't think there's a lot of people that I would like to take a fucking semester-long course from on whatever the fuck you felt like talking about that day.
I'd be his intern for free right now.
Yeah.
I'd love it. Yeah. But yeah, that was a fun trip, the Formula One. I was, like I said, very impressed with the actual venue. And it was just such
Me too. It was pimp.
Like, you've put on an event before, right? Can you? So look.
And Fury. Yes.
Okay.
I put on an event before.
Whatever. Even when
major quotes.
Even when you're like emceeing somewhere and you see like all like the little logistics of just to get You remember at Shift Sector you would do that every once in a while.
Yeah.
Just the logistics to get you there. Yeah. Here's your mic. Blah blah blah. And on that scale, I mean that's impressive.
It is. It's crazy.
Yeah.
To actually turn a city into a racetrack is. And people have very short memories. They made a big deal out of that drain cover thing coming out. Mm-hmm. But almost every time they build a street circuit for the first time, something comes out of the ground that they thought was secured.
Yeah, you're creating 2 tons of vacuum above a street that's never been driven.
Yeah. Not that what happened to that car and potentially the driver isn't dangerous.
Right.
It is, and it's a good thing that he was okay.
Yeah.
But like Like that shit, like you're doing some shit on this road that's never been done.
Right.
Zach looked like he found some information.
I tried to find something about Koenigsegg, and they said that in 2007 he was using an E85 flex fuel sensor in the CCXR for what you were referring to, but I can't find anything that confirms that he invented the sensor, or maybe he just was the first person to start using it.
Oh, that makes sense. The first time we ever used it was in 2009. We used one out of I think a Delphi GM sensor in that car.
Yeah, well, they had it in the trucks, the Tahoes and the Suburbans.
That's where we found it.
I don't think they had it before. I don't know.
Huh. Well, that's cool. Yeah.
I don't know. You know who'll know? Fucking JF. That's a JF phone
Yeah.
call. We'll have to get him on the phone to figure that one
Phone
out.
a friend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, cars.
Yeah.
Glad you're not dead.
Me too.
It's a crazy fucking story.
Yeah. Yeah. A wild ride. And I mean, the journey is still like just in the infancy.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting, but I'm happy. I'm super, super grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find out Tim's future after this next batch of ads.
Yeah. Factor meals.
So they are a sponsor, actually. What is this? So on Monday, I'm going to Finland. It's a long fucking
To eat reindeer?
trip. To eat reindeer, but to drive the electric Cayman race car on
shit.
the ice track.
Really?
Yeah. Have you seen this thing?
Oh, yeah.
It's called like
Mission
Mission E GT4 Club Sport or something like that.
it's the coolest looking Cayman on the planet.
It's a really cool looking Cayman. I get to go have a go on the ice track. What are your thoughts on electric Porsche race cars? Are you interested? Are you
no.
not really interested?
No, I'm not. I used to like try to get myself interested because I love the performance. I like the theory and the but in practice, I'm just not. Look, call me old school, cancel me. I don't care. But at the end of the day, how do I put this politely? If you go to race a car, there's two schools of thought. One is you're trying to extract as much data as possible for something. That's maybe for your street cars, right? Maybe for development, and you're trying to test a lot of damage and a lot of test cycles in a short amount of time in a harsh condition. The other one is you go to have a good time. Have you ever been to like a Formula E race?
I tried to watch it on TV and it's unwatchable.
Unwatchable.
Yeah. The only one I thought I made was cool, and I will give was the Rallycross.
Yes, because
The Rallycross was cool.
Because there's a lot of violence involved in that.
There's a lot of violence involved. They're
Yeah.
bashing doors. They're going off of jumps, and the sound of the engine in that particular case is a little less crucial.
Well, I think the
because
racing is very dramatic, whereas with Formula E, because I watched a Formula E race in person in New York, and the racing is undramatic, and then you lose the sound.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're standing there, you don't even know they're coming down towards you until the last moment, and you hear,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, to answer your question, I've made the decision very recently that I will be that old dude who's getting left in the dust by the EV movement and all of this stuff. I will, in fact, drive an EV if I can engage, right? And if I can enjoy it. And lie to me. Fucking, that sound that they're doing? Maybe make some more sound. Lie to me. I don't care.
I drove the BMW i4 M50,
Right.
which is basically the electric M3.
Mm-hmm.
It's a horrible name, but it's the electric M3.
Got it.
It was really fast and mostly very boring to drive. However, it went stop and turned really well.
Yeah.
They have what they're calling, I think they call it the classic soundtrack, something like that. And it's basically a digitized version, inside the car only, not outside the car. It's a digitized version of an S54 engine with like a CSL airbox.
Really?
So it has this sort of intakey noise. And at first 10 seconds I used it, I was like, this is dumb as fuck.
Right.
30 seconds in, I was like, yeah, you know what? Not so bad. And then I left it on the whole rest of the day.
Okay, there you go. Like, lie to me. Like,
Yeah.
I love the sound of an engine. I really do. Why can't we put a sequential gearbox behind a great motor so I can fucking have my head hit the
Hyundai's doing it. The new Ioniq 5N has a simulated gearbox and paddle shifters. Haven't tried it yet, but I actually have heard good things.
So they develop a torque model to simulate gear changes. Yeah. No, that's cool. I like that stuff. There is an absolute home for that with me, and the reason why I'm going down this path is because I get asked a lot to do EV conversions on 911s.
Ugh.
I'm like, so you're taking a shitty 911 and you're putting you're going to make a really poorly driving golf cart. Get a Tesla.
Yeah.
But if we can make it fun and we can incorporate some, let's say, some sound and some, you got to get the visceral feeling back in. And the beauty behind early 911s is they're not great. They're not they're not refined.
I'm anti-EV conversion of good sports cars.
But
I'm not anti good EV new cars. You know what I mean? Like a classic car converted to EV is a worse car than a great classic car, and it's a worse EV than a Tesla.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But if there was a way to do it in a manner that keeps you engaged and it's fast as shit and it's still fun, I think there's something there. EVs, like I think like a Phantom, a Rolls-Royce Phantom should be an EV.
Well, yeah, that is now. They are. The new Spectre. Yeah.
As you can see, I've fallen off the research side.
It is and it is.
Here's another question, and this is a real question. This isn't rhetorical. The net result. So EV, the green, to be eco-friendly, right? What is after you mine everything out of the ground? And then you look at the cycle life of batteries, and you look at the recycling and everything. Is there actually, and I haven't looked this up, that's why this is not a rhetorical question, this is real.
Yeah.
Where is net zero? Where are we beating out ice?
It depends. It depends how you do out the math.
Okay.
It depends where the minerals come from.
Right.
Where do the minerals and the battery packs have to get shipped to? It's not an exact universal thing.
So
Jason Fensky at Engineering Explained, who I trust, says and believes and has done his version of the math and says that after three years or so, I believe it's 3 years, and I haven't watched this video in a while, that the electric car is cleaner, assuming you're charging it somewhere that has a good percentage of renewable energy.
Yeah. So California, I believe, you can look this up, is 50% renewable and 50% coal and...
No, it's not coal. It's natural gas.
Natural gas,
Yeah. But then I also learned recently that the renewables can't be used at night.
Yes.
So if you're charging your EV overnight, it's being charged on natural gas, not...
Yes.
Our total renewable energy that is generated in the state is 34.8%.
Oh, wow. So it's lower.
So it's not... and that's one of the leading states.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great.
So we're not there yet. The other thing that I do see is, like, if we are looking at reducing that carbon footprint, localization of pollution, you can help with that. Like in very concentrated cities, if you start doing EVs only, but you're just moving the pollution somewhere.
You're offshoring your filth.
I was in an airplane talking to an executive of a company that makes oil once, and this was like 3 or 4 years ago, and I'm like, are you guys worried about this? Like, he laughed at me, like, no. And I'm not going to say, because this will give away who it was, but they said one of our largest customers, and has been our largest customer, helps get the minerals out of the ground.
Yeah.
And it's always been that way. And so it's a direct... I would love to see the math, and I think logistically it makes sense. Like what you're saying, like if you could come up with a per mile traveled of the precious resources versus... I don't know. It is very convoluted to actually try to quantify that.
Because when Fensky made the video, there was this thing going around that was called the long tailpipe myth. So people that were arguing in the case of ICE cars were saying, well, it takes so much energy to extract the minerals, make the car, and then charge the car that it's worse than using gas. And so what he was showing is that, well, you have to extract the oil, make that into gasoline, transport that to a gas station.
There's still that.
And so those steps add up to the generation of power, whereas with electricity, like, yes, you generate it at a power plant, however you generate it, but then when it travels to you in a way that is basically carbon free. So that helps contribute to it being a cleaner source of energy and transportation again over
But a lot
time.
of I think a lot of the difference is the dirtiness goes into building the that car is carrying essentially its own fuel supply around for its whole life, the battery and all those minerals and all that bullshit. Whereas if you build an ICE car, it's the burning of the fuel that is the dirty thing. If the car is just sitting there, it's not particularly, especially if it hasn't had to be shipped across the continents multiple times, it's not as dirty. So it really depends.
That makes sense. And I'm not arguing for or against. It's more of an information thing. But
no, I think it's like an open topic, and so much of it relies on how are the minerals extracted, what percentage of the battery uses which minerals, because some companies use a lot of rare earth minerals, some use less cobalt, which then makes it a slightly cleaner battery to build. And then also, can you actually recycle the minerals and use them for something else? And how complicated is that process?
Post-life.
Totally.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're absolutely right. And my other argument is, even just working on internal combustion engines for as long as I have, I don't think we're even close to seeing the efficiency of these things yet. I think there's so much more. And I think Christian von Koenigsegg spearheads a lot of that with free valve, with a lot of the technologies that he's exploring. I don't with e-fuels that Porsche and Exxon are working on right now that are renewable. All made on I think there's still more to go there, but I don't know if that's going to outpace. So let's say the math does work out that an EV is better after 3 years. It would be hard to see if that would actually outpace that.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, you need to figure out what you're trying to do. Ultimately, we're trying to lower the carbon footprint of cars, right?
Yeah.
But then you have all of our tankers on bunker fuel out there. It's like
sure.
So it's like, is there other areas that just don't take away my gas engine? That's all I'm saying. Is like I
Look,
think
a lot of the efficiencies in gasoline engines have been offset by our taste for huge vehicles. Like if now 60% of the market is trucks and SUVs versus in the 80s it was 10% or 15%.
Yeah.
And we've got this massively more efficient engine, but the average weight of the car is 2.5 times heavier.
Yeah.
It's kind of offsetting that. So
it's the taste of the
taste of people, the taste of profits, and the fact that, in my opinion, it should be really expensive to buy and drive a huge fucking truck.
Yes.
In my opinion. And a lot of people don't like to hear that shit, but like, if you're taxing the fuel, you're taxing. I mean, literally, you're using more than your share of fuel. You're using more than your share of weight and rubber on the road, wearing out public infrastructure, stuff like that. You're taking up fucking every inch of parking. I think it should be massively expensive to drive something that
like
huge.
a VAT on it or something like
Yeah,
that. Because you look at
weight-based.
I mean, if the bed of your $130,000 truck doesn't have a scratch in it, then I get it. I mean, I bought a K truck. I'm putting a Christmas tree in it tonight.
Dude, I love a little truck.
Yeah,
love a
little three-cylinder.
Love a little truck.
Yeah,
and
the free valve, for the record, when they did a study on a 1.6 liter turbocharged engine, reduced fuel consumption by 15%.
and
that's
torque and
good.
power went up almost 50%, which is huge. But
so you can reduce that power and torque and probably increase efficiency. I mean, that's why I'm saying, like, you got people like Mr. von Koenigsegg who's really, really pushing that side of things. You have Porsche that really wants to hang on to the internal combustion engine because that's why they're investing billion. Last I checked, over $1 billion or something like that. I think
they put a lot into the e-fuel thing. But I think that's still a long ways off.
Yeah, I mean, but there are opportunities like, and then our infrastructure. Let's say they snapped our finger right now. Like, I can't even run my AC in the summer. You get browned out, right? So there's a lot of work that we all have to do together, and I think.
It's cool because we're in this time where we're watching like the evolution happen. And I know that transportation and propulsion has evolved in the 1900s also, but it feels like this is a bigger shift change than just Well, we had gas cars in 1905.
Yeah.
And then they got better and faster and more efficient and da-da-da-da-da, but up to 2000s it was still like gas is the thing. Volkswagen did a little detour to diesel. But now it's like, well, is it going to be hydrogen? Is it going to be electric? Is it going to be gas? And they're
Ammonia.
all kind of competing. What?
Ammonia is another viable option.
I read about that one, but they said it's really problematic. It's very dangerous.
Yeah,
it's,
caustic
it's hard to.
Yeah.
It's
super toxic.
Yeah.
But hey, but
They're trying
for,
things.
for big ships. I don't know. Like,
Well, one thing that I know that ships are doing is they're making them. There's a regulation in California now where you can't burn bunker oil within a certain distance of the shore.
Well, I wonder what
I
that is.
forget what the distance is, but it's measured in miles.
Got it.
I don't know if it's 10 miles or 15 miles or whatever it is. You have to turn off your bunker, and they have to carry another tank
fuel source.
of clean fuel. And that regulation cleaned up the air in Long Beach and San Pedro like overnight.
Wow.
Someone showed me the chart and was like, I mean, it was instant.
See, to me, that's low-hanging fruit.
It's a low-hanging fruit.
It doesn't.
Totally.
It doesn't burn up the infrastructure. Sure, it costs more, and then at the end of the day, we all, whoever's importing something, pays for it. But that to me is like where we should be looking. I don't know.
Yeah. The absolute dirtiest, biggest things,
Yeah.
maybe start there.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
To circle back, though, has at your business, are people asking you to modify Taycans?
Very lightly. Wheels lower, minor carbon fiber stuff.
Okay.
I've gotten every single Taycan owner asking, "Hey, have you been able to crack into this thing and give more of this or rain or whatever?" That could be done. We did a project with Honda back. Probably, remember the CRZ?
Yeah, I remember that thing.
Yeah, we built 3 of those for them. They did one at 25 Hours of Thunderhill. They did one drag car, and I think Busy might have done one or two.
Yeah.
But the people who were involved on the hybrid integration and the programming of that, I wish I can get a hold of them because those would be the people who to do this. Like they understood that so well, and we're like, okay, turbo's spooling up a little late. Can you give us? Oh yeah, here, It's.
I can't imagine anybody with a Taycan who wants it to go faster. I mean, it's just.
I think
it's
a base.
so
I think the
fucking
low hanging
fast
fruit would be the base model
to make it go as fast because they detune some of them with the same hardware.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not sure if it's hardware limited. I just haven't done enough research, but it would be such a focused undertaking to do something without wrecking shop.
Yeah.
Like torque models are important, and so you don't twist the axles in half. There's just a lot of little things there that, like I said, I haven't even touched the surface of the internal combustion engines for what I think that I'll be able to do here in the future. So for me to switch gears to EV, I'm not the guy for it.
Yeah.
There's other people out there, and I'll watch and admire it. I mean, I got to drive a Plaid a few times, and you can't not giggle, right? You're like, fuck, this is fast. And then you melt the brakes, and then your wife gets mad at you. And
then you realize how little chassis and brakes it has behind that thing.
Right.
It's truly the Hellcat of EVs.
Yeah, it's like the ripped dude who, no offense, who skipped every single leg day, right? It's just like biceps twice the size of their quads.
Yeah.
But there's no balance. I'm a diehard, and the older I get, even though I'm in my early 40s, the more I'm closed off to the fact that you're going to try to make me get excited about it. By the way, I'll drive anything, especially that on the ice. I'd be excited about it.
Yeah.
But you asked me my opinion. My opinion is I'm not too interested. However, if I were to fly, I would actually pay money to go drive that car on the ice.
I am excited to go drive on the ice. It is a proper undertaking for me to get there. I'm traveling 37 hours each way. I'm going to be there for one day.
Yeah, that's brutal.
I land, I sleep, I drive, I go back to the airport. I mean, that's a fucking long way to go.
That's burly.
For one day.
And here I am complaining about driving an EV.
Again, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that this is the reality of the situation. And they said, "Do you want to go?" And I did the math out, and I went, "Yes, I still want to go."
Right.
But I think as a novelty, it will be exciting.
Yeah.
But if I was Matt Farah, rich club racer, because they're talking about doing a series with these.
Right. No, I've been following that very closely.
And, if I was club racer guy, with my martini jacket,
Yep.
you know, and my pelotes.
Yeah.
And would I spend $200,000 for a season of racing these? I don't think I would, compared to a GT4 RS Club Sport gasoline.
Right, because all-out speed, that car is as fast as the 992 Cup, and that's impressive.
Yeah,
but,
for 30 minutes.
Yeah, but then I'd rather drive a 71 911E up and down, like from here back to
I agree. I love cars because I love engaging with machinery.
Right.
And this shit doesn't do it for me. That's why my appliance is an electric car and all the rest of them are gas cars.
Yes. Bingo. Yeah, and I owned a Tesla for a while, and I loved it because I only live a couple miles from my house. Get in, take my son to school, go haul ass, go do this. It's just easy, right?
Yeah.
It's an iPhone. It's a big iPad.
Yeah.
But I sold that and I bought a 65 Mustang because I like those more. You know, and so it had a huge cam in it and 347 stroker, and it was fun. And that was my daily. And I rather, you know, it's like if somebody said, "Betim, you dumbass, you're getting 6 miles to the gallon," and let's say California said that's a luxury tax, like for the truck, I'd pay it. I'd say, you know what, I'd pay it because, especially after what I just went through, I'm going to do things that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And whether they make sense, big picture, if they don't, I'll pay for it. The price of convenience is heavy, and the price of happiness is heavy, and the price of progress is pain. So it's like, however, I don't know. I just don't want to be that sour old asshole who's like, oh, electric cars, blah, blah, blah. You know, like when carburetors to fuel injection, but I appreciate it. I love the technology. I love where it's going, the physics, all that stuff, but I am going to do things that I enjoy. And I enjoy listening to an engine.
They will never legislate gas cars off the road. They may legislate that you can't buy brand new gas cars.
Correct.
But they will never, look, if we can't get rid of fucking guns, we're not getting rid of gas cars.
Right.
Straight up.
Right.
I was just in a fucking state where everybody is packing. Everybody. If you can't get rid of guns, your gas car is safe.
Yes.
No one is taking. You can still drive a Model T on the road right now.
Yeah, which is arguably the most dangerous thing you could put on the road.
You can.
It has wood
I'm
wheels.
pretty sure you could legally ride a fucking horse through the city if you
If a
want to.
termite horde attacks you, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You know, like they're not.
No,
so,
you're very.
So there is a business, and there are enough people that do feel that way, that they will. And it may get expensive, and it may get hard to find, and new industries may pop up for it, and it may require e-fuel.
Yep.
But there are enough people that we will need people like you to keep the gas cars running well. Because if they're really not going to make any more of them, we want the ones that are here to last.
Yeah, absolutely. Gas cars could be the high heels and nice dinners, and the electric stuff could be the commuting, boring.
People ride fucking horses.
Right.
Every day people ride horses.
Yeah.
People sail.
Yeah.
I love sailing.
Yeah.
I enjoy riding a horse. I wear a fucking watch that tells worse time than my phone.
Right.
Like, you know, like
Right.
we do shit that it becomes a luxury once it's no longer a necessity for those who enjoy it.
Yeah, and I'm segueing, and I fully agree with what you're saying. But back to the EV thing, I will say, at the cost of efficiency and the cost of all-out speed, there is a way I think you could make them very exciting. I think maybe Hyundai is onto something. I think a sequential gear. You know, there's something there. And maybe, I mean, that's always intrigued me, actually.
Well, I think I got to drive a electric trophy truck that had full suspension and was powered by a Tesla motor, and it weighed like 1,800 pounds. And then I got to drive, who made that? EV West's E36 like drift car after it was fixed and set up correctly by Von Gittin. And like, those were very fun experiences. I mean, the trophy truck especially. And I was in them for a day, so maybe over days, weeks, months, I go, ooh, I missed the gas engine. But like the driving experience, you know, if you drive a proper race car and you put all the headphones on and you remove the sound, would you still be having fun?
Yeah. So yes, you would. And what it comes down to for me is the pie chart of bandwidth when you're in a car. It gets taken up quite heavily by sound, smell, feel, vibration, right? And then that's the part of the enjoyment and all that stuff. And when you're racing,
that's your sensory input for enjoyment. Okay.
Yeah, and if you could replace that So you either replace it with all out fucking like I'm scared to death speed and power,
they have that,
or you make it really fucking interesting. Like I think people are creeping up on it. Just as you did, you kind of laughed at that deal that the BMW with the sound, but then you end up leaving it on.
Yeah, and I did that in the past. Remember my Focus RS?
Yeah.
My Focus RS had the electronic, augmented sound.
Right.
And I was at first like offended by it, and I pulled the fuse for it because it had its own fuse.
Yeah.
And I pulled it, and I was like, that doesn't really sound right. And like a day later, I put the fuse back in, and then I forgot it was there.
So that's why lie to me. If you can lie to me well enough, I'd love it.
Yeah.
I'd love an EV. But until then, I don't know, man.
You know where they really lose me is when they send the sound outside. They lie to everybody else.
Yeah, I don't care about anybody
There's
else.
a guy in Malibu who's got a Tesla Model 3
That just makes me
has
mad.
like Hellcat sound pumping out.
No, pump that in.
He drives it through the fucking parking lot, and it sounds like a muscle car. And I look and I go, my eyes do a complete backflip.
Yeah,
they roll so hard that they're back where they fucking started.
Right.
It's heinous.
Right. But look, people are looking. They love the efficiency, the ease, the driving an EV is just easy. It's nice.
Yeah, of course.
It's clean. It feels clean, right? It feels easy.
It does.
But just like look at anything. We will sacrifice efficiency to feel connected. Like you said with the watches.
Yeah,
that's a great watch, but it probably doesn't tell any better time than
It does not.
Right. So we will sacrifice
this watch.
efficiency and all that shit too. That's why it doesn't tell it.
It's very good, but it's not.
Let me tell you about it. But look at craft beer and you look at even handmade this or
Look,
that.
people are buying vinyl records, dude.
Right. And then like my brother-in-law, Aaron, he's got the most amazing sound system. Counterweighted record player that's like a mechanical engineer's
You have to sit
dream.
in this chair.
Beautiful.
Only this chair.
And he spent so much time with it, and sounds incredible. But the amount of work he had to do, where you could just plug in my phone to the aux cord.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that so much. And when I sat there and listened to it, it's almost like even if it didn't sound I'm not a connoisseur, I'm not an audiophile, but the experience of looking at the mechanical thing and the tubes and this and that, and like the heat that was coming off one side of it, you're like lack of efficiency, but design. You go to Paris or even New York, and you look at the way they did gutters. Yeah. The metal work and the stone work and all that stuff, and even the light poles. There's so much craft in that. It's so inefficient, but there's some beauty in that. Sure. I would pay for beauty, passion, and craft with efficiency in a lot of times, because what are we trying to do? Like what maximum efficiency of what?
Well, and I feel like the opposite of efficiency in terms of electric cars is like artistry and this sort of built to last feeling.
Right.
A lot of it could be whether it's a Tesla or a Taycan, it doesn't feel to me like this is a product that's designed to work as well 40 years from now as it is today.
Correct.
Whereas
the cars you showed me today, that 1929 Bugatti.
Yeah.
That car was built to run today.
Yeah.
And you just look at it even further, and you're like, now nobody would do that right now.
Or a 70s 911 or my 1986 Ferrari. Like those fundamentally work just as well today as when they were new.
Right.
And I am deeply suspect about things that are, but like I wouldn't dare pull out my Pentium fucking desktop, HP computer from 1994 and try to
fire that puppy up.
That's also happening with gas cars, though. There's like a planned obsolescence, they hope that the car breaks so that you lease a new one or buy a new one. And they've also gotten so complicated. Whereas I think for a long time they just made it so that it worked, and it tended to be overbuilt or over-engineered.
Yeah.
And then you can support its life cycle through the service department, right?
Yeah, totally.
But now it's warranty, and after warranty, then it goes out to the secondhand market, but then the warranty work is like you're replacing a sensor now.
Yeah, a lot of it is.
And then but what you said, the planned obsolete.
It's not great.
Yeah, and then you I think that I'm crazy sometimes. I'll buy something that's 3.5 times the price of something else as long as I feel like it was built by somebody's hands or somebody's mind or passion.
Yeah.
And then it will last me. And then if it does break, I can fix it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I'm just getting old. Like it's just what it feels like. I'm starting to sound like a crotchety old man. Who's
No,
like,
I mean, but there's we remember because we remember a time before but when Gages did this and we're old enough to remember that and then young enough to where we've got enough experience in both of those regions, and it seems like it's not a good direction, but there are people who worship technology like it is going to be our savior, and who don't like cars and who don't like driving. And I don't like driving in traffic either. And if that's your life, I understand why you'd rather have an iPhone with wheels.
Bingo. Yeah, I agree completely. It is a tool for their job, right? And you have to be very clear with what that job is. And if that job is making you happy, buy an old fucking car, and work on it, or get a relationship with a mechanic, or if your job is sitting in traffic, I think an EV is the way to go. Yeah. I think I don't know. It's just like what you touched on earlier. We are in such an insane time. When in history have we watched such a paradigm shift of and such a rapid acceleration, except for maybe pre-war. You know what I mean?
After World War II, there's tons of technology.
Right. Yeah, someone who like my grandmother who was born in 1918.
Yes, there you go.
And so she went from radio, and by the time she died at 101, had an iPhone.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
Yeah. That's a long time. She lived to be 101, but still, I mean, in her lifetime.
But she had to live from 1918 to 1978, really, kind of. Because the buildings were already built, right? The New York, the Sears Tower. I don't know when that was built, but like some of those impressive things in the Industrial Revolution were happening. But from a technological standpoint, we didn't get out of carburetors till when?
It really changed.
The 80s.
Yeah, and then then all of a sudden, what they say, the hockey stick effect, right? And then I remember getting a beeper in like the mid 90s.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
I had a beeper.
Maybe late 90s.
Me and all the other.
I think that was the successful shrinking of the transistor, which was, I think, in the 70s, and that opened up the whole personal computing. And that means even like digital clock, calculator, whatever, stuff like that.
What year did she live till?
My grandmother?
Yeah.
She died in 2019 at 101.
Wow.
Yeah.
So from the 80s, so basically, I was born in 1980.
Yeah.
That to me was like
that period got rapid.
Yeah.
The fact that she was able to comprehend an iPhone at all was
Isn't that
amazing.
crazy?
Yeah, she was smart.
Right. That's incredible.
We got a lot of questions from the Patreon. Let's get to some of them because they are important. They bought a ticket to this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Of course, patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast is where you get your questions in, how you watch our live streams, et cetera, et cetera. Also, this show is actually going to air Thursday. The show we record tomorrow is going to air Tuesday, but I will have a date for the orange dial of my Notice Canyon watch. It's coming in December. We have 100 units allocated to patrons only, and then 100 to the general public. So we're going to have another release date. So the patrons who missed out on Minty here will be able to get the orange one.
Very cool.
Yeah, these are fucking great.
I want to learn more about that later.
This is I finally designed a watch with Notice, and it rules. I'm very proud of it. Douglas Levy put his 991 Porsche away from the winter, but is considering adding, what the fuck does that mean? Considering adding numeric cables next spring. Is there enough benefit to swapping the cables, or do you really have to do a whole short shift kit?
Great question.
This is a cable-operated shifter?
Yeah,
So what is a numeric cable?
Anything from 996, so 1999 and up, Porsche utilizes cables, the Boxers, the Caymans, the 911s. And the way they couple the cable to the actual transmission, there's a ball seat a steel ball seat on the end of the shift lever on the gearbox, and then the cable has an isolated rubber housing. And as that wears, you felt
you get slop.
You get the slop.
Yeah.
The numeric cables are great. They tighten all that up, give you a lot better feel, but
Does the word numeric mean anything?
It's a brand.
Oh, that's a brand.
It's a brand.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there you go. I should have cleared that up.
I didn't.
too.
I was like, numeric. Does that mean like 1, 3, and 5? Like, what is that fucking? Okay,
no,
the
great
brand.
question. Yeah, it's
Okay.
a brand of shifter and cable, and they do a good job. We've used them quite a bit. You get a little bit more noise that comes through the shifter because it's just transfer through metal to metal.
Yeah.
But it's well worth the feeling. Especially, you know what, where it really makes a huge difference is Caymans and Boxsters because. Maybe not in the later years; they're a lot better. Like
Mine is great.
Yeah, like what you have, but like my
no
my 99 or my 987, that Cayman was the shittiest shifter I've ever felt, and so I went through and actually made all my own class couplers and everything. But you do get some noise.
Okay. Is there a difference between that and like a Porsche short shift kit, like Porsche Motorsport or a
Well, so if Porsche Motorsport in the 996 Cup car made what's called the blue cable, and they did a green cable also. It's a real thick shift cable, and we used to try to hoard those and put them in street cars. That to me is a great cable also, but they never made them for anything else outside of the 911.
Oh, okay. Got it. Adam says, I've been on a hunt for a 997 GT3 for a while. Is the gotta have it factor here to stay for 997 GT3s? And secondly, do I get a .1 or a .2? I mean, I think those cars are great to drive.
Yeah.
They look great. They're the right size.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dot 2 has a nicer interior, right?
Right.
Slightly more modern.
.2 is, and a little more power.
A little more power, a little nicer interior, but the .1 is just such a rad car too.
Is
They're
there-
both great. I think that car is here to stay. I want one really bad. I'll sell all my shit so I can go buy one of those. But
How much did you sell your Mustang for? I want to be sad.
$26,000.
Okay, I'm not that sad, but I'm close. Okay, keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I prefer a .2 mainly for the interior, but like they're both pretty great.
Yeah.
They're the right size, and otherwise they keep getting bigger, and we keep complaining about that. So
Yeah.
I think the popularity is definitely here to stay.
And they're a good balance of fast, fizzy,
Right.
light. You know, they're easy to drive.
So I have a 992 GT3 RS in my shop currently, and that is a massive car.
It's huge.
Huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
huge.
I used to say the GTR was huge. This is, I think,
It's
arguably
huge
as big
and,
or
and it holds less.
I don't know.
things than
It feels bigger.
huge and with less room than my Boxster.
Yeah.
Like, which is crazy. My Boxster has 2 trunks. This has 0 trunks.
This has no trunk. This has
No
behind the
trunks.
seat, and then you put our roll bar or
Yeah, you
harness
can't
bar,
put
and
anything.
you're game over.
Even behind the seat, it's got the fucking bucket seats. It's not like you could just fit anything
No,
back
I
there.
know. I feel like Porsche looked at the McLaren P1 when that came out. They're like, "Oh, I got something for you." yeah. For
The GT3 is slightly smaller
Is
than
it?
the GTR. Like 5 inches shorter, 2 inches narrower.
Jeez, GTR is
but
that big.
It's close, yeah.
I remember taking a GTR rear bumper and putting it around a 997 turbo rear, and it like went all the way around the car. I was like, "Wow."
They're big as fuck.
Yeah.
Christian says, are you aware of Newport Beach convertible? Looks like they make any car a cab. What car would you like to turn into a convertible?
Here we go.
Fucking, I am. It's not that I'm against aftermarket. Pull that up, Zach. Let's see what's on. What are they advertising as their work on their title page? You know what I really did like actually. I thought I saw a Hellcat, a wide body Hellcat convertible, and I thought, you know what, fucking Dodge should make this because it actually looks right. Tesla Model S convertible. You should not do 4-door convertibles.
I don't think that's a very easy thing to do.
It's probably not. You ever see the science behind how they design convertible tops for OEMs? It's a crazy
Mind-bending.
science. Yeah,
Mind-bending.
crazy.
Yeah.
So like God, that looks terrible. That Model 3, that looks awful, especially with the windows up like that. I mean, mad respect
looks cool.
for the engineering behind it.
Yeah.
But like, there's some cars where it's just like that doesn't look very good.
I never even knew this existed, like this type of business, because I look at, like what you said, it is mind-bending how to get a convertible to work right.
Well, these aftermarket ones, this photo is great because here's what you end up with. The top sort of stacked on the back
Got
like
it.
that. Half the time with this engineering, it's where does the top go?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean,
That's kind of all of it,
Yeah, you
right?
gotta-
How do I make it clean with the top down? And so,
all right, fine. Just to screw up a GT3,
Oh, here you go.
a GT.
now we're talking turning a first
All
gen
right.
2-door Range
There you
Rover
go.
into sort of a Bronco-y vibe. I actually like that.
I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, the original two-door Range Rover from the 70s. There's a Testarossa.
A Urus?
An
Oh,
Urus.
man.
It looks like a Murano
Urus.
cross cab.
Yeah.
The Urus convertible.
Well, see, that's a
is not
rendering,
good.
and then.
No, that's an 812. They made an 812 convertible.
But
which,
they make.
I thought they did that.
They make the hardtop.
well, the
convert-
GTS is out now,
Right.
so that's
So maybe this
that's
is
what you
before.
don't want to do. You don't want to cut the top off a car that they're then going to
Before doing this, you need to call the car company and say,
Yeah.
"Are you planning to sell a convertible?" And
Yeah.
they say yes. You don't.
Remember
call
in
this company.
2014 when people were doing like $90,000 wide body builds on Hellcats and they felt real dumb like a year later?
Yeah.
I think honestly a Challenger Hellcat convertible is a cool cruiser. It's got to be a two-door car. Four-door convertibles suck.
Well, hey, I would if I had to be crazy, I would do a 992 GT3 RS convertible.
Be fucking rad. Just take all. You ever see
Forget the
anything
structure.
anything that's left of space that you could put anything is
Yeah.
gonna be taken by a. You're done.
There's room in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, did you ever see? I wonder if they could do like a Targa upper.
I know.
If you could graft a Targa upper onto a GT3 RS
because
lower.
the Target. So I mean, they did that. You remember the Scud, the M16, the Ferrari.
Yeah, 16M.
Yeah, 16M. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I mean,
Spider.
as soon as they did that, I'm like, I thought I would have lost money saying that Porsche wasn't going to do that because I was like, well, they took their very, very track focused car and made it a Spider.
Yeah.
So I thought that would happen.
One of them Porsche executives. Remember, they can get shit that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The Porsche family members and whatever. There was a story a couple years ago where they put a GT3 RS powertrain in a Targa.
Oh.
So it was like the
That would be the
ultimate
thing
like
to do.
sleeper.
Because Targas look so good.
They look dope.
I think the windshield's tilted back a little further. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot there. Yeah, it's very cool.
Flannel Bob says, let's see. Now that the world has attained a new market in off-road rally-inspired supercars, how does this market expand its roots, and does it owe its inception to the Axiom Megatrack? That was sort of this Dakar kind of thing from the 90s. It was kind of this funky off-roady supercar concept thing. I mean, I'm into it. Like, on dirt is like one of the last places you can go really fast without rules.
Right.
And also, every off-road sports car I've ever driven has just driven awesome.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason not to do it.
Because you're getting, I mean, with technology, the duality of I've never even.
That's what that is. Yeah.
I want one.
Yeah, it looks
That looks like a Koenigsegg safari car.
Yeah, it looks like a very early Koenigsegg /
I like it all
Lancia
articulating it.
037 / RS 200.
What?
Yeah,
With a V12?
yeah, apparently. Pretty cool though.
Very cool.
The Axiom Megatrack does look awesome. I thought they only made one or two of these. There's at least 3 or 4.
We need to bring back the Megatrack.
Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of that's sort of where this is going, and I don't think there's any reason based on the success of the Dakar and the Storado. Like, yeah,
I think the Storato's basically
Storado's awesome.
it's basically that.
I fucking love the Storado. I drove the Storado on a track and on the rally stage, and it was the fucking best.
So back in the late 90s, early 2000s, we lived in Washington State, and we'd save up our money and we'd all pool our money. We called it the pizza wagon. We'd all pool our money together and buy a shitty car. And we'd take it up off this place called Exit 38 off I-90, and we'd off-road the fuck out of it. We all had Toyotas and mud trucks and everything like that, and we'd do that, but we would take turns just beating the death.
Yeah.
And there was nothing more fun than off-roading something that shouldn't really be off-roaded.
Yeah. And it usually lasts longer than you think it's gonna.
The only reason why that car we found the best car for that was a between 1980 and 82 Toyota Starlet, and the only thing that could kill one of those fucking cars is if the battery flips upside down and arcs out. So then we'd make these battery straps. But anyways,
Yeah.
off-roading things that shouldn't be off-road is a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Off-road Starlet is what's up.
Yeah.
Short wheelbase.
Yeah, I mean, Zach and I have done 1,000-mile off-road trips in beaters before. Okay, Sam England has a serious question. 996 Carrera 4S had bore scoring, rebuilt to a 4-liter with forged internals. Heads rebuilt and ported. 6-speed manual, has exhaust and intake, mostly stock Pfister mufflers. Has wheels, tires, suspension, brakes, mostly dialed. What would you do next?
9964. Those are pretty good cars too. Once you get it, if you can get to this stage where Sam dialed it in with the forged internals and balancing it to the 10th of a gram, that's all good. That's good. Hopefully he did a intermediate shaft upgrade.
I'm sure
with the
if you've
bearing and all
gotten to
that.
this point,
for
you
sure.
must have done that.
Outside of that, you do lightweight clutch if he hasn't done that, gearing, and focus on suspension.
Because then you're kind of like at the end.
That's it. Yeah, don't do anything more. Buy a different car. But for the 996, those cars, and the C4S has, I mean, it's just like the 996 Turbo. Porsche left us so much room for improvement there. Like, you can really make those cars rip.
Well, it's already a 4-liter. So,
so you got that down, right? And then focus on suspension.
Do you delete all-wheel drive?
No, I actually... We've done two things. We do what's called our M track, where we push everything out and we correct the front geometry a little bit. The other thing that we have done is we machine GT3 knuckles and have a custom damper made, so the axle shaft can go underneath the typical damper, and then you have an all-wheel drive with a car with a GT3 nose, and that's the first time I got in a 911. We did this on a 997. Where I felt, I was like, man, this almost feels like torque vectoring now. Because usually you get this push, you turn in on an all-wheel drive 911, you go to throttle, the thing takes a set, and then the rear diff kicks in, and you kind of get this push out, right?
Yeah.
Well, this one, it turns in, you get on throttle, and it like drives you down. It's pretty cool.
Cool. Okay.
But yeah. Anyway.
So you sell that shit?
Yeah.
All right. Go to BBIAutosport.com and find those parts. Chris Ono says Nissan and Infiniti are getting ready to release a variable compression engine in the QX50. Should the enthusiast community be excited about this tech, or is it destined to be an overcomplicated way to save gas and nothing more?
So that's another one of those deals with free valve. Have you ever seen what one of these connecting rods look like?
I saw one years ago when they were announcing it, and I was very surprised. I'm surprised to see it still going forward. But
I am too. It makes perfect sense to me, because if you run a really, really high compression turbo engine, you can drop that compression ratio as cylinder pressure increases, as boost comes in, but to light boost off and have a more efficient complete burn, you could run like 14 or 15 watt compression outside of your torque range. And I think there's something there. Look, anything in an internal combustion engine, if it's reliable and you can make it variable, because as you know, anything mechanical that isn't variable typically has a static peak operating point. And if you can make it variable, like intake manifolds, cams, exhaust systems, that's why. It's because you're trying to broaden that operating range and increase efficiency. I think that there's something here. That is this system here I haven't seen that you just had before this commercial.
Is this a commercial, or is this a video showing the...
It's a video showing the thing.
Showing how it works.
Showing his
This is
fucking
on
foot.
Nissan
Showing his foot.
Global.
I'm sure it would help if there's... Oh, here's an animation of the inside. Maybe it... Will it show us? On demand, blah, blah, blah.
I've read about this style one, but if you look up, there's another one where a connecting rod has two pistons in it, and it actually rotates the wrist pin housing, the wrist pin bearing. And I think that might be a more elegant solution. This looks like you're increasing a lot of surface area of bearing contact space and reciprocating mass. But see that, look right there. That's, That would take me a while to digest that whole thing.
In general, right? So when we have variable cams, we have variable intakes, we have variable geometry turbos, things that, those things all, even if they weren't great in V1, by V2 or V3, they're clearly successful strategies for optimizing power and economy.
Right.
Right?
996 Turbo had essentially... one thing variable was the intake cams.
Yeah.
Everything else was static. And now you look at a 992 Turbo and the fucking water pump's variable. Yeah. It literally, it changed with, you know what I mean? So you have to chase efficiency and progress is
crazy.
What you're talking about there, I think.
The question is do we trust Nissan to do it? Or is if this was a Porsche technology, would we be questioning it right
Porsche
now?
is a company that goes like this. They're like, that's kind of cool. We thought about that. Let's see how they do it. We'll improve on that one.
Yeah.
We have that. We started working on that thing a little while ago, but these people seem ambitious. Let's see what they do, right?
Yeah.
It's a lesson that I should probably learn from them, but I'm usually the one spending all the fucking time and money and trying to let's try this. This might be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nissan would be a good test bed. They have deep pockets.
Yeah.
Good engineers.
Tony from Munich wants to know if I'm aware of the link between Demolition Man. You know I'm obsessed with Demolition Man.
Yeah, of course.
And Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I do know that, and Demolition Man knows that. The Sandra Bullock's character is Sergeant Lenina Huxley.
Oh, wow.
That's her last name in the movie.
Okay.
I am aware, and thank you for reminding me, Tony. El Zapataro says, Jonathan Ward has given you carte blanche to build any derelict or reformer you want. What vehicle do you choose? What would you want to have John Ward iconize?
I already know what I would do. Because I was trying to buy one not too long ago. I would take and this sounds dumb, but I would take a pre-72 crew cab Ford, and I'd have them put a late model chassis under it with like a 12-valve Cummins diesel in it, and that would be my tow rig for the truck or for the shop, and just dial it out the way Jonathan Ward does it.
Yeah.
I love his work. I think.
too.
But I actually just tried to buy one that another company built just yesterday. But I would pay the extra money to California to drive this thing and waste gas and all that stuff. But you know. We could talk about that for half a second. The Restomod world, that's why it's so successful, is because you get the iconic, nostalgic feeling of the cars that you admired growing up that you couldn't have. Now you get to do that in a tasteful, grown-up way with going back to that whole thing is you can give up a little bit for something that makes you happy. I mean, you look at Singer and you look at Gunther Works and you look at what they're doing. I mean, they're dialing in a 964, right? But they're making them. They're two different companies completely in their approach, but you see, like a 992 GT3 is arguably faster than any of those cars for a fraction of the price, but you would give up that outright speed in order to have something that you can connect with mechanically that you can appreciate. That's it's like a watch, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So with what he does in the trucks and everything, I like that sort of thing. It's cool.
I would do a boat tail Riviera. 72 boat tail ribs.
You don't see enough of those. They're stunning.
They're fucking great.
There's one floating around Huntington Beach that this couple are always driving in. They all stop at a brewery not too far from my shop, and it's just a really cool car to see.
And
on
it
the
wouldn't
road.
have to be anything crazy. Just a regular LS3 and an automatic. Just fucking
Good brakes.
Yeah, basic
AC.
basic shit. Yep, basic cruiser.
Yeah.
Let's see. Neil says, my aging folks are in their late 70s. They have a 2011 Outback. It's seen better days. They want to sell the car and lease something smaller for 3 or 4 years. It's got to be safe, haul 5 passengers, all-wheel drive, and smaller than their Outback. Crosstrek. Yeah. They're leading towards a Forester, but are open to other cars. I mean, Crosstrek is probably... If they don't really need maybe the new Prius, honestly... The new Prius is great. I just drove it in Florida. We'll talk about it in detail on the show tomorrow. It's nice.
Really?
Seriously. Yeah, seriously. It is. But other than that, I mean, no reason to break what ain't, or fix what ain't broken. Crosstrek or Forester's fine. Tim A says, any anecdotal experience with high mileage 991s pushing 10 years old? How do interiors age? Any glaring mechanical issues? Magnus has that 991 turbo with like 200,000 miles on it. The interior is shockingly good. Now,
there's one owner before him.
It was one owner, and the guy really took good care of it, and it was mostly highway mileage. But like 200,000 miles is 200,000 miles.
No matter how you look at it.
And the leather looked great, and the dash looked great, and if you told me it had 45 or 50,000 miles on it, I would have been like, okay. Is anyone bringing you old ass 991s that look garbage, or are they all right?
It really depends on how the person took care of it. There was another high mile non-turbo, a Carrera S that came in, had like 165,000 miles on it, and I was blown away on how clean it was. And then you can have somebody bring in their 43,000 mile car and it looks like hammered shit.
Yeah.
It depends if it was well taken care of. But, the 996s and 997s had the buttons, like kind of like that. But the 991s, they did away with all that.
Yeah.
So you don't have that wear issue. I think they're pretty good.
I think they're pretty good. I've seen a bunch of them, and I've never seen one that was like horrible.
Right. Like super solid car.
Yeah. Elon, eat my shorts. How do you go about purchasing a current model Ferrari without jumping through dealership hoops? Should I go private party or third-party exotic car dealers? Either one, doesn't matter. You're paying up. You're buying on the flip, and they're going to take your motherfucking money.
100%.
Yeah. My advice: don't buy a current generation Ferrari. Right now is a great time to buy an awesome 458 because naturally aspirated, fucking dead nuts reliable cars.
Such a fun car to
look
drive too.
Great,
Yeah.
as fast as you ever need a car to be.
Right.
And that's what I would do. But yeah, otherwise you pay someone a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
911 Maniac says the 930 market seems to fluctuate wildly. Where do you see this going over time? Biased as I'm restoring a first year 75 930.
Wow.
I don't think it fluctuates that wildly.
I haven't seen much fluctuation. I have seen it increase.
Yeah.
Right. And it's as steady. Honestly, the 930 market. So I moved to California in 2003, and a guy offered me, and I was fucking homeless at the time, but a guy offered me a 965 turbo with blue interior, white exterior for $31,000 at the time. Low mile, well taken care of. I didn't have two pots to piss in, but from then there was a steady increase for the last 20 years. I think in the 964 and the not 964 NA car, but the 964 turbo and the 930 turbo, a steady increase till now. I think that's been almost the most stable price increase that we've seen. I think they're going to continue to go up in value.
I do too. I think it's not that there's been wild fluctuations. It's that certain variants of the 930 sub-variants are much more desirable than others.
Right.
You've got your early cars, your turbo Carreras, which are rare.
Like what
he's got, 75, 76.
Right.
The Europe-only cars.
The gray market cars.
The gray market cars.
Right.
And then you've got your 89 with your 5-speed.
The unicorn
and
there.
you've got slant noses.
Right.
And then everything in the middle, you know.
Like an 81 is also considered, like some of those, the Euro gray market cars that came here, those bring some money.
But like the first ones that were sold in the U.S., the 4-speed cars, like, those are like less desirable.
Right.
And so there's not like a generalization about the market as a whole.
Right.
It gets a little narrower than that.
Yeah. And keep in mind, 75 through 89, that was a lot of 930s.
Yeah.
Turbos, right?
Yeah.
I still have it in the shop, but getting ready to deliver it a 89 slant nose, black.
Great.
Awesome.
We have one right outside this window. A cab. Nice. White with white wheels and blue interior.
Original
turbos.
slant nose?
Yeah, real slant nose cab.
I'll bring the black one by.
Yeah. It's neat. Justin says, hey, in one of his car stories videos, Ed Bolian said something along the lines of, Lotuses are for people who don't realize Caymans exist. I've never driven a Lotus, but I'm wondering if you had any thoughts on that statement. I think Justin needs to watch our fucking Lotus videos because every Lotus video I have ever made said, this is the best car in the world if you don't want a Cayman.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Zach said something similar.
They're I think they're more arguably, I don't know about the newer Caymans, but they're arguably more engaging to drive. I think a Lotus is. I think they're like, but I'm coming off of like, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for like the old Exige and the Elise, about the late '90s, and I got to track a bunch of those back in the day because we prepped 3 of them for a couple gentleman racers. And I had a time of my life in these cars.
They're raw.
They're
fun.
It's just I don't know about the new stuff. You would speak better to that, to compare them to a new Cayman, but I don't know.
I mean, yeah, if you're talking about an Amira, a current one, they're similar for sure. I mean, my Spider feels like it's built better. It's a little more integrated,
like put together.
It's a little more harmonized. And there's certain, there are no quirks in a Porsche. Porsches don't have quirks.
Yeah.
That shit wouldn't pass.
Yeah.
But Lotuses have a few quirks, and the Amira drives great. I mean, it's a lovely car. It's got good balance. It's a complete car. You could daily one. You could road trip them. You could take one to a track day. And there's not everybody, like even if a Cayman is, everyone universally agrees that a Cayman is the best, there's room for like buying something just because it's different. Like I don't see any Amiras around, and I see tons of Caymans. And
Very true.
Being different is okay too. You don't have to have like, not everyone has to have the exact same, quote, best thing.
Right. Very true.
David says, but Tim, what was the most challenging part for Leah's Pikes Peak run in the Hoonipigasus?
Great question. The most challenging part was the year before. You know what? Leah was such an awesome person to be around. Very responsible and quick behind the wheel. The most challenging part was trying to keep the car, tame enough for her to be comfortable enough for her to start pushing it, and then slowly feeding it in. She did great. We had a few mechanical issues. Like, look, I tested that car at Streets of Willow for 2 days straight. I think we went through like 200 gallons of methanol, and not a single problem. We get to Colorado Springs, and a hydraulic line. There's a very specially made hydraulic line that pumps oil to the front of the crankshaft from Porsche. Had a hairline fracture in it. Like, well, when does that ever happen? So try to find one, then that kills your day overnight. Another one.
I think we talked about this on the show we recorded from your shop, which was like 3 weeks before you had a heart attack.
The most challenging part was the brain damage that you thought you went with a prepped car, and as soon as you get to Pikes Peak, it's like, oh no, we're just going to break a bunch of shit that you never thought would do.
Sure.
But outside of that, the most fun part was watching her behind the wheel and hustle that car and enjoy it.
Yeah. Let's see. Dre in Houston says a lot of words, but mainly, how do you feel about the 992 platform regarding modding? Is it more or less the same, or is it more challenging for the aftermarket?
You know what? You had Mitch from M Engineering on here. That if him and his team get behind something from a ECU standpoint, you can mod anything. Hardware is easy. The calibration electronics is hard. The 992 responds really well to even suspension tweaks. There's not a lot on the table like it used to be with the 996, 997, and even the 991. Well, 991s are still, but 992 is fine. I think I'm answering that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll save Brendan's for tomorrow's show, Zach.
Okay.
Let's see. We'll save Jeremy's for tomorrow's show. Paul says, do you see other OEMs following Porsche in producing e-fuels? I don't think it's going to be OEMs doing it.
I don't think so either.
I think even if Porsche comes up with a methodology to make it affordable, they're going to sell it to Mobil or whoever. Because why does Porsche want to be in the business of making gas?
No,
they can own the patent,
right,
get money, and just go back to building cars.
Well, I think that was Exxon.
Exxon is partnered with them on that. Porsche wants, as you touched on, they want. So I like that approach. You find a problem, and then you dig deep until you find the floor, right? And the floor is the fuel, and then producing the fuel. And as you guys touched on, you have to transport it, you have to get it out of the ground. Yeah. So if you can do that in a net neutral setting, then now you just solved the big problem. And then now if you can make that potent enough to, to sustain the high compression engines, they're trying to keep the internal combustion engine alive and efficient. And the fuel is a big part. So I see them. I don't know if other OEs are going to get behind that, though. It's a hard one to ask.
Well, the fucking fuel companies should be getting behind it.
Yeah, I think Porsche is just leading the charge because nobody else has.
Yeah. Tyler's will be, is that the last one? Tyler's? Mm-hmm. That'll be answered on the show that we record tomorrow that will air actually before this one airs.
All good questions.
Yeah. Thanks for not dying.
Yeah. Thanks for
appreciate that.
Let me tell my story.
Appreciate you not dying. That would be very, very sad. Already had too many fucking friends die this year.
It's happy. Yeah. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
That's good.
I bet.
Yeah.
Of course, BBI Autosport for all your Porsche tuning needs. Suspension parts, speed parts, all them shits.
Hill climb cars.
Mm-hmm. One tube frame Porsche for sale. Where is that car?
It's at the Peterson right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which car is this?
The
Hoonipig.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That car will probably never run again.
I'm taking an air-cooled car to Pikes this year.
You are?
Yeah.
You're going to drive it?
No.
Who's driving it?
I don't know yet. I have 4 drivers that I'd like to.
Oh, good times.
But yeah, 2 of which are like, we'll do something. And then we're going to have a few
Can
more.
I try it first?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to have a go.
100%. You're going to need it.
I would like to have a go.
I'm going to bug you more and more about this project.
Okay.
But yeah. And then
Supposedly we're driving Gunther's turbo car in a couple weeks.
Oh, badass.
Yeah.
That's going to be.
Which I'm pretty excited for.
Yeah.
It's from what I hear, it's fucking insane.
Violent.
Yeah, I've heard it's really, really scary.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. See? Engaging.
Yeah.
Scary, engaging.
Yeah.
Same
totally.
thing. Yeah.
That should be a good time.
It's cool.
All right, for the live people, we're going to be back on Sunday with a crew show. We will reveal the winner of the notice contest. We got a really incredible amount of entries, and if you're listening to this after Sunday the 10th, then go back one to find out who won who won the thing.
I like it.
And we'll talk about some other shit then. But Tim, you're the man.
Thanks for the love.
See you guys later. Bye.